She walked into that room thinking she'd been invited. She was wrong. What Lena didn't know was that her invitation was a setup, a cruel joke designed to humiliate her in front of people who'd spent their entire lives learning how to destroy someone with just a glance. She was about to become entertainment for the wealthy and ruthless. But then the most dangerous man in the room stood up and chose her, shattering every expectation and igniting a chain of events that would force her to confront the person she'd been hiding from her entire life. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey reaches. The restaurant didn't have a sign. That should have been Lena's first clue. She stood outside the unmarked entrance on Fifth Avenue, double-checking the address on her phone for the third time. The building looked like every other gray stone facade in Midtown Manhattan, unremarkable, deliberately invisible. But the doorman standing beneath the awning wore a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and the way he looked at her made her skin prickle. Name? His voice was flat, professional, empty. Lena Carter. I'm here for the... She glanced at her phone again. The Meridian dinner? He didn't move to open the door, just stood there, studying her like she was a stain on his polished brass buttons. Then he lifted a small tablet, scrolled through something, and his expression shifted. Not to warmth, nothing close to warmth, but to something that might have been recognition mixed with pity. 6th floor, he said, pulling open the heavy glass door. Elevator straight back. Lena stepped into a lobby of black marble and dim lighting, her heels clicking too loud against the floor. The elevator doors were already open, waiting. She pressed the button for the 6th floor and watched her reflection in the polished metal as the car climbed. She looked fine. She'd told herself that a dozen times while getting ready. The dress was simple, black, fitted but not tight, borrowed from her roommate Maya, who had better taste and a better credit limit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a low bun, small gold earrings, minimal makeup, professional, appropriate. Fine. But standing there in that elevator, watching the numbers climb, Lena felt something cold settle in her chest. This didn't feel right. The invitation had come through email 3 days ago from someone named Victoria Chen, who claimed to be coordinating a networking dinner for emerging professionals in the arts and media sectors. Lena worked as a freelance photographer, had been scraping by doing headshots and event coverage for 2 years since graduating. So when Victoria mentioned that several gallery owners and creative directors would be attending, Lena had responded immediately. This could be the break you need, she'd told herself. The elevator slowed, stopped. The doors slid open, and Lena stepped into a nightmare disguised as elegance. The restaurant was small, maybe 15 tables, each one perfectly set with white linens and crystal that caught the candlelight. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, the kind of view that reminded you exactly how high above the rest of the world you were. The guests were already seated, conversations flowing, wine being poured by servers who moved like shadows. Every single person in that room looked like they'd been born knowing which fork to use. Lena stood frozen in the entrance. A hostess approached, blonde, impossibly thin, wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ms. Carter? The way she said the name felt like an accusation. Yes, I was invited to... Right this way. The hostess turned and walked into the dining room, and Lena had no choice but to follow. She felt every eye turn toward her, felt the weight of their assessment, their judgment, their immediate dismissal. The conversations didn't stop, but they quieted, shifted. The room's energy changed the moment she entered it, like a drop of ink in clear water. The hostess led her to a table in the center of the room, not hidden in a corner, not by the windows. Dead center, where everyone could see. 3 people were already seated there, 2 women and a man, all in their 40s or 50s, all dressed in that particular way that screamed old money and new power. They looked up as Lena approached, and something passed between them, a flicker of recognition, of amusement, of confirmation. Your guest has arrived, the hostess said, pulling out Lena's chair. The woman closest to her, sleek black dress, severe bob, diamond choker, smiled. How wonderful. Please, sit. Lena sat. Her hands were shaking, so she pressed them flat against her thighs under the table. I'm Catherine, the woman said. This is James and Diane. We're so glad you could make it. Something in her tone, something in the way she said it. Thank you for having me, Lena managed. I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. The invitation was a bit mysterious, Catherine finished, still smiling. Well, we like to keep things intimate, exclusive. Diane, across the table, lifted her wine glass. She was older, gray hair styled in perfect waves, pearls at her throat. Tell us about yourself, Lena. What is it you do? I'm a photographer, freelance mostly. I do portraits, events, some editorial work when I can get it. How quaint, James said. He was lean, silver-haired, with a voice like gravel and scotch. And how's that working out for you? The question wasn't neutral. It was a test, a trap, a way of asking, are you struggling without the vulgarity of being direct? It's challenging, Lena said carefully, but I love the work. I'm sure you do. Catherine's smile widened. It must be so freeing, not being tied down to anything permanent. No real obligations. Across the room, someone laughed. Not at their table, but close enough that Lena heard it, felt it aimed at her like an arrow. She was starting to understand. This wasn't a networking dinner. She wasn't here because someone saw potential in her work. She was here because someone thought it would be funny. Someone had looked at her Instagram feed, her coffee shop portraits, her street photography, her desperate attempts to build a portfolio that mattered, and decided she would make excellent entertainment for people who'd never struggled for anything in their lives. The realization hit like cold water. Are you feeling all right? Diane asked, leaning forward with mock concern. You look a bit pale. I'm fine, Lena said. Her voice came out steady, which surprised her. Just trying to figure out why I'm really here. The table went quiet. Catherine's smile thinned. I'm sorry? This isn't a networking dinner, Lena said. She was shaking now, but not from nerves, from anger, from the slow-burning rage of finally seeing the joke and realizing she was the punchline. Someone sent me that invitation as a setup. Someone thought it would be funny to watch me walk into a room full of people like you and, what, fall apart? Embarrass myself? Catherine set down her wine glass very carefully. Darling, I think you're being paranoid. Am I? Lena looked around the table. At their faces, their expressions, the way they were all suddenly very interested in their napkins. Then why does everyone in this room look at me like I'm a mistake? Perhaps, James said slowly, because you're acting like one. The words hung in the air, heavy, cruel, true enough to hurt. Lena pushed her chair back. She was done. She didn't know who Victoria Chen was, didn't know which of her so-called friends had thought this would be a hilarious story to tell later, but she wasn't going to sit here and be their circus act. Excuse me, she said, standing. Wait. The voice came from behind her. Male, low, with an edge of command that made the entire room go still. Lena turned and saw him. He was standing at a table near the windows. The table, she realized, the one positioned like a throne overlooking the rest of the room. Tall, maybe 6'2", dark suit cut to perfection, dark hair touched with gray at the temples. He couldn't have been older than 40, but he carried himself with the kind of authority that didn't come from age. It came from power, from knowing that when he spoke, people listened. Adrian Voss. She didn't know his name yet, but she'd seen his face before. In magazines, in news articles about corporate acquisitions and billion-dollar deals. He owned half the real estate in Manhattan, and most of the people in this room. He was looking directly at her. Don't leave, he said. It wasn't a request, but it wasn't quite an order either. It was something in between, an invitation wrapped in certainty. Lena stared at him. Why not? The room held its breath. Adrian walked toward her, not quickly, not slowly. Each step deliberate, measured, drawing every eye in the restaurant. When he reached her table, he looked at Catherine, James, and Diane with an expression that could have cut glass. You're at the wrong table, he said to Lena. Catherine's face went white. Adrian, we were just not interested, he said, cutting her off without looking at her. To Lena, join me. He extended his hand. Lena looked at it, at him. At the faces around her, some shocked, some furious, some gleeful at the drama unfolding. She should walk away. Every instinct told her to walk away. This man was dangerous. This entire situation was insane. She'd already been humiliated once tonight. She didn't need to compound it by becoming part of whatever game he was playing. But his hand was steady. His eyes were steady. And when he looked at her, he didn't see a joke. He saw a person. Lena took his hand. The room erupted into whispers. Adrian led her across the restaurant to his table, pulled out a chair, waited for her to sit before taking his own seat across from her. A server appeared instantly with a fresh wine glass, filled it without being asked, and vanished. "You didn't have to do that," Lena said quietly. "Yes, I did. You don't even know me." "I know enough." He picked up his own glass, studied the wine like it held answers. "I know you walked into a room designed to break you and almost made it out with your dignity and tact. That's more than most people in here could manage." Lena felt something crack in her chest. Not breaking, opening. "Someone set me up," she said. "Sent me a fake invitation. I thought this was a professional opportunity." It was Victoria Chen. Adrian's voice was flat, factual. "She's seated 3 tables over, trying very hard not to look at us right now. She works in my acquisitions department, and she's fired, effective immediately." Lena's head snapped up. "What? No, you can't. I don't want someone to lose their job because—" "This isn't about what you want." His eyes met hers, dark and unflinching. "It's about what's acceptable, and humiliating someone for entertainment isn't acceptable. Not in my company, not at my table, not anywhere I have influence." "Your table," Lena repeated. "So this is your event?" "I host it quarterly. Investors, partners, people I'm considering working with. It's supposed to be—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Productive. And instead you got dinner theater." A smile ghosted across his face, brief but real. "Instead, I got something interesting." Lena lifted her wine glass, took a drink because her mouth had gone dry. The wine was good. Better than anything she'd ever tasted, which probably meant it cost more than her camera equipment. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Doing what?" "This. Rescuing me, making a scene. You don't know me. I'm nobody." "You're not nobody." He said it simply, like it was obvious. "You're someone who walked in here alone, figured out the game, and was ready to walk out rather than play it. That takes spine. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing." Across the room, Lena could feel the stares, the whispers. Catherine's table had gone silent, 3 faces frozen in various stages of shock and rage. Victoria Chen, a petite woman with sharp features and sharper jewelry, was indeed trying not to look at them, failing miserably. "Everyone's watching us," Lena said. "Let them. This is going to cause problems for you. I've built an empire on causing problems." Adrian set down his glass. "Tell me about your work." The shift in topic threw her. "My work? You're a photographer. What do you photograph?" "People, mostly. Portraits. I like—" She hesitated. "I like trying to capture the version of someone they don't show the world. The unguarded moment, the real face under the mask." "And do you succeed?" "Sometimes. When they let me." "What happens when they don't?" Lena thought about it. "Then I get a beautiful lie. Perfect lighting, perfect pose, perfect emptiness." Adrian leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that should have made her uncomfortable. It didn't. It felt like being seen, actually seen, maybe for the first time in years. "You don't belong here," he said. Her stomach dropped. "I know. I already told you I was—" "I don't mean the restaurant. I mean this world." He gestured vaguely at the room, the people, the careful performance of it all. "You're too honest, too real. People like Catherine and Victoria, they spend their entire lives learning how to perform, how to say one thing and mean another. You haven't learned that yet. Is that a compliment or an insult?" "It's an observation." A server approached with menus. Adrian waved him away without looking. "Not hungry?" Lena asked. "I've eaten here 100 times. It's all the same." He paused. "Are you hungry?" She was starving. She'd been too nervous to eat all day. "A little. Then we'll go somewhere else." "What?" Adrian stood, buttoning his jacket. "There's a Thai place in Queens. Hole in the wall, no ambiance, plastic tables. Best food in the city. Interested?" Lena stared at him. This had to be another game, another test. Men like Adrian Voss didn't leave their own carefully curated events to get Thai food in Queens with women they'd just met. But he was holding out his hand again, waiting. "I don't understand you," Lena said. "Good. That makes two of us. His hand stayed extended. Yes or no? She should say no. She should thank him politely, go home, delete Victoria Chen's email, and forget this entire nightmare ever happened. Instead, Lena took his hand and stood. They walked out of that restaurant together, past tables full of people whose opinions had shaped industries and broken careers, past Catherine's murderous glare and Victoria's pale shock, past the hostess and the doorman, and out into the cool Manhattan night. Adrian had a car waiting. Of course he did. Sleek, black, driver already holding the door open. This is insane, Lena said as they pulled away from the curb. Probably. I don't even know you. You know I'm not going to hurt you. That's enough for now. She wanted to argue, to point out that she absolutely did not know that every true crime podcast she'd ever listened to started exactly like this. But something in her gut, some instinct she'd learned to trust through years of pointing cameras at strangers, told her he was telling the truth. The drive to Queens took 40 minutes in traffic. They didn't talk much. Adrian made a phone call in rapid Mandarin that sounded like he was either closing a deal or ending someone's career. Lena stared out the window and tried to process what had just happened. The restaurant, when they arrived, was exactly as advertised. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, laminated menus sticky with age. The smell of garlic and chili hit like a wall. "This is your favorite place?" Lena asked as they slid into a booth. "One of them." Adrian picked up a menu, didn't look at it. "I grew up 3 blocks from here, before the money, before any of it. This place has been here 30 years. Same owners, same recipes. Nothing's changed." A woman emerged from the kitchen, 60s, gray hair, floral apron. Her face lit up when she saw Adrian. "Ah, Adrian, too long, too long!" She rushed over, smacked his shoulder affectionately. "You forget about us, huh? Too fancy now?" "Never, May, just busy." "Always busy. This your girlfriend?" May turned to Lena with frank curiosity. "No," they said simultaneously. May raised an eyebrow. "Okay, not girlfriend. I bring you the usual, both of you." She disappeared before either of them could respond. "The usual?" Lena asked. "Trust me." 15 minutes later, the table was covered in dishes. Pad thai, green curry, some tam, spring rolls, mango sticky rice. Enough food for 6 people. "This is," Lena started. "Too much, I know. She does this every time." Adrian picked up his chopsticks. "Eat what you want. She'll pack the rest." They ate. The food was incredible. Nothing like the sanitized Thai places near Lena's apartment in Brooklyn. This was the real thing, spicy enough to make her eyes water, complex enough to make her slow down and pay attention. "So," Adrian said after a while, "who was it?" "Who was what?" "Who sent you that invitation? You said someone set you up, someone you knew." Lena set down her fork. She'd been trying not to think about it. "I have a theory, but I don't know for sure." "Tell me." "There's this guy, Marcus. We dated for about 6 months last year. It ended badly." "How badly?" "He cheated. I found out. He said I was overreacting, that I was too insecure, too jealous, that I needed to be more sophisticated about relationships." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That word, sophisticated, like my feelings were provincial. And you think he's behind this?" "Marcus works in finance. He knows people like Victoria Chen, people who move in that world. And he always said, I didn't belong, that I was out of my depth, that I'd embarrass myself if I tried to operate at his level." Lena met Adrian's eyes. "This feels like him, like proof of concept." Adrian's expression went cold. Actually cold, like something had frozen behind his eyes. "His full name?" "Why?" "Because I want it." "Adrian." "His name." She shouldn't tell him. This was already spiraling into something strange and dangerous and completely outside her control. But part of her, the part that had spent the last year swallowing her anger, accepting blame she didn't deserve, shrinking herself to fit Marcus's narrative, wanted to see what would happen. "Marcus Hale," she said quietly. "He works at Greystone Capital." Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something, sent it, put the phone away. "What did you just do?" Lena asked. "Made a phone call." "To who?" "Someone who can make sure Marcus Hale has a very bad week." Adrian picked up his water glass. "Don't worry, nothing illegal, nothing permanent, just Educational. You can't just, I can. I am. He looked at her steadily. Someone humiliated you for sport. That has consequences. Lena didn't know what to say to that. Part of her was horrified. Part of her was grateful. All of her was confused. Why do you care? She asked finally. You don't know me. This isn't your problem. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, but with an edge of something raw underneath. When I was 23, I got invited to a dinner. Real estate investors, old money families, people who'd been playing the game for generations. I'd just closed my first major deal, bought a building in Brooklyn, flipped it, made enough profit to get noticed. Someone thought it would be funny to see if the kid from Queens could handle himself at the adults' table. He paused, staring at something Lena couldn't see. They destroyed me. Not physically, not violently, they just picked me apart. My clothes, my accent, my education, every single thing that marked me as different. And I sat there and took it because I thought that's what you had to do. That if I could just survive it, I'd prove I belonged. What happened? Lena asked quietly. I survived it, built my company, made my fortune, earned my place at whatever table I wanted. And you know what I learned? His eyes refocused on her. Those people were still playing the same game, still finding new targets, new victims, still entertaining themselves with other people's humiliation. Nothing changed. Nothing ever changes unless someone makes it change. So this is what? Revenge? No. Adrian shook his head. This is me recognizing that dinner I walked into 20 years ago. And this time, I'm not the one sitting down. I'm the one with the power to stop it. Lena felt something shift in her chest. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition of something she'd never been able to articulate. I was going to walk out, she admitted, before you stopped me. I was done. I almost ran. But you didn't. No, I stayed long enough to call them out. Long enough to make them see that I knew exactly what they were doing. She smiled, small and bitter. For whatever that's worth. It's worth everything. Adrian leaned forward. Most people never get there. They internalize it, believe it, let it shape them. You saw through it. That's rare. Doesn't feel rare. Feels like I'm still the one who got humiliated. You got humiliated. Past tense. It's over. What happens next is up to you. What's supposed to happen next? Whatever you want. Lena laughed. That's the problem. I don't know what I want. I thought I wanted to build a career, make a name for myself, prove I could succeed in this city. But every time I get close to something real, it falls apart. Or turns out to be fake. Or I screw it up. Give me an example. Last month, I thought I had a gallery show lined up. This small space in Chelsea, nothing major, but it would have been my first real exhibition. The owner loved my work, said she wanted to feature me. Then a week before the opening, she canceled. Said my style didn't fit the brand anymore. Did she give you a real reason? No, just, it didn't work out. Lena pushed rice around her plate. I think someone told her not to work with me. Maybe Marcus, maybe one of his friends. I don't know. But it felt personal. Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, typed a quick response, set it down. What if I told you that show is back on? He said. What? The gallery in Chelsea. What if it reopened for you? Lena stared at him. How would you even... Did you just... I made a phone call. The gallery owner is named Rebecca Morris. She's been trying to get a lease extension on her space for 6 months. The building's owned by one of my subsidiary companies. I can make that extension happen. In exchange, she gives you your show. No. Lena shook her head. No, absolutely not. Why not? Because that's not earning it. That's just using your money and power to force something to happen. I want to succeed because my work is good, not because some billionaire made a phone call. Your work is good. That's not in question. You've never even seen my work. Show me. Lena pulled out her phone, opened her portfolio app, slid it across the table. Adrian scrolled through her images in silence. Street photography, portraits, architectural studies. Moments she'd captured because they'd felt true, because they'd shown her something about the world she wanted to remember. He scrolled slowly, studying each image. His expression didn't change. Finally, he looked up. You're right. Your work is good. Better than good. You have an eye for truth. That's not common. But nothing. I'm offering you an opportunity. Not because you need rescuing, but because you deserve it, and someone took it away from you for reasons that have nothing to do with your talent. I'm simply removing the obstacle. It's still charity. It's strategy. Adrian set down her phone. I invest in things that have value. You have value. This is an investment. You don't invest in photographers. I invest in whatever I want. They sat in silence. Around them, the restaurant hummed with normal life. Families eating dinner, couples sharing pad thai, the clatter of dishes and easy laughter. It felt worlds away from that restaurant on Fifth Avenue. I need to think about it, Lena said finally. Fair enough. Adrian checked his watch. It's late. I'll have my driver take you home. I can take the subway. You could, but you won't. He was right. She was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, and the thought of navigating the subway at midnight felt impossible. They rode back to Brooklyn in comfortable silence. When the car pulled up outside Lena's building, a walk-up in Bed-Stuy that she shared with two roommates, Adrian walked her to the door. Thank you, Lena said, for dinner, for everything. You're welcome, she hesitated. Are we going to see each other again? Do you want to? I don't know, maybe. This whole night feels like a fever dream. Adrian smiled, a real smile this time, not the careful performance he'd worn at the restaurant. Get some sleep. If you decide you want that gallery show, my office will contact you. If not, then I hope you find what you're looking for. He turned to leave. Adrian? He looked back. Why did you really do this? Lena asked. The truth. He considered the question. Because 20 years ago, I sat in that restaurant and nobody stood up. And I've spent every day since then building enough power to make sure that when I see it happening again, I can do something about it. He paused. And because when I looked at you tonight, I didn't see someone who needed saving. I saw someone who was already saving herself. I just wanted to see what happened next. Then he was gone, back into the car, disappearing into the city's endless night. Lena stood on her stoop for a long time, trying to process everything that had happened. The humiliation, the rescue, the conversation, the offer. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maya. How did it go? Lena stared at the message. How did you explain a night like this? How did you put into words the feeling of being torn down and built back up in the space of 3 hours? She typed, I'll tell you everything tomorrow. It's complicated. Maya's response came immediately. Complicated good or complicated bad? Lena thought about it. About Adrian's hand extended, his refusal to let her be dismissed, his casual decimation of everyone who'd tried to make her feel small. About the Thai restaurant and his story and the way he'd looked at her work like it mattered. About the possibility that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to accept being the joke. Complicated good, she typed. I think. She went inside, climbed 4 flights of stairs, let herself into the apartment. Maya was asleep. The other roommate, Jordan, was working a night shift. The place was quiet. Lena went to her room, carefully hung up the borrowed dress, and sat on her bed with her laptop. Opened her portfolio. Looked at her own work with new eyes, trying to see what Adrian had seen. Truth. He'd said she had an eye for truth. Maybe he was right. Maybe that's what she'd been chasing all along, the real moment, the unguarded face, the thing that existed underneath all the performance and pretense. Maybe that's what tonight had been. Strip away the luxury restaurant and the billion-dollar empire and the revenge plots. And what you had was 2 people who were tired of pretending, who'd recognized something real in each other. Or maybe she was romanticizing the whole thing. Maybe Adrian Voss was just a bored billionaire who'd found a new distraction. Maybe by tomorrow, he'd forget she existed. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This is Adrian. I realize I never actually got your number before making dramatic pronouncements about your career. That seems backwards. If you'd like to have coffee sometime and discuss the gallery situation without the pressure of mysterious Thai restaurants, let me know. Lena read the message 3 times. Then she typed, Coffee sounds normal. I could use some normal. His response came seconds later. I should warn you that I'm not very good at normal. Neither am I, she wrote back. Maybe we'll figure it out together. Tomorrow? There's a place in Park Slope, terrible coffee, excellent people watching. What time? 10. I'll send you the address. Lena set down her phone. Her hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from humiliation or fear. It was from possibility, from the strange, terrifying, exhilarating feeling that maybe her life had just cracked open. That maybe walking into that nightmare of a dinner party had actually been walking into something else entirely. She didn't sleep much that night. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every choice. And when dawn broke over Brooklyn, turning her small room golden, Lena got up and made a decision. She wasn't going to hide anymore. Wasn't going to make herself smaller, quieter, less. Wasn't going to accept being the punchline or the cautionary tale or the girl who didn't belong. Whatever came next, with Adrian, with the gallery, with her own messy, complicated life, she was going to face it as herself. Fully, completely, unapologetically herself. Even if that meant everything fell apart, even if she failed spectacularly, even if the world looked at her and decided she didn't fit. She'd spent too long trying to fit, trying to smooth her edges, soften her voice, become whatever version of herself might be acceptable to people who'd never accept her anyway. Lena pulled out her camera, started scrolling through the images she'd taken over the past year. Not the professional ones, not the carefully curated portfolio pieces, the real ones, the shots she'd taken for herself. Street corners in Crown Heights, faces on the subway, light through fire escapes at dusk, truth, unpolished and raw. She started a new folder, named it Real, and began to build something that felt like freedom. The coffee shop in Park Slope was exactly as Adrian described. Aggressively mediocre coffee served by people who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Lena arrived 10 minutes early, ordered something that claimed to be a cappuccino but tasted like burned regret, and found a table by the window where she could watch the street. Brooklyn, on a Saturday morning, was its own kind of chaos. Parents with strollers, dog walkers tangled in leashes, runners who took themselves too seriously. Normal people doing normal things, completely unaware that Lena's entire world had tilted sideways less than 12 hours ago. She'd told Maya everything over breakfast. Well, most of everything. The humiliation at the restaurant, Adrian's intervention, the Thai food in Queens, the offer of the gallery show. She'd left out the parts she couldn't quite explain. The way Adrian had looked at her work, the text messages at 2 a.m, the feeling that something had fundamentally shifted. Maya had listened with her usual intensity, nursing her coffee and occasionally interjecting with colorful commentary about what she'd like to do to Victoria Chen and Marcus Hale. Then she'd gotten quiet. "Be careful," she'd said finally. "Of what?" "Of mistaking rescue for reality. Rich men don't do things without expecting something back." "He hasn't asked for anything." "Yet." Maya had fixed her with a look that Lena knew too well, the one that said, "I love you, but you're being naive." "I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm saying you don't really know him. And people with that kind of power, they operate on a different level. What feels like generosity to you might be Tuesday afternoon to him." Lena had wanted to argue, but Maya wasn't wrong. She didn't know Adrian Voss, didn't know what he really wanted, what this was really about, whether his interest would last beyond the novelty of the situation. The door chimed. Lena looked up. Adrian walked in wearing jeans and a gray sweater, looking somehow more intimidating in casual clothes than he had in the tailored suit. He spotted her, raised a hand in acknowledgement, ordered coffee without looking at the menu. When he sat down across from her, Lena noticed the details she'd missed last night. The scar above his left eyebrow. The slight crook in his nose like it had been broken once and not set quite right. The calluses on his hands that didn't match the rest of his carefully constructed image. "You look like you didn't sleep," he said. "Neither did you." "I never sleep much." He took a sip of coffee, grimaced. "You weren't kidding about the coffee." "I tried to warn you." "No, you said it was terrible. I thought you were being polite." "This is genuinely terrible." Despite everything, Lena smiled. There was something disarming about watching a billionaire complain about $3 coffee. "So," Adrian said, setting down the cup like it had personally offended him, "have you thought about the gallery?" "I've thought about nothing else." "And?" Lena took a breath. "I need to understand what you're really offering because Maya thinks..." "Maya's your roommate?" "Yeah. She thinks you're expecting something in return, that this is transactional." "It is transactional." Adrian didn't flinch from the directness. I facilitate the gallery show. You create the work. Rebecca Morris gets her lease extension and a talented artist. Everyone benefits. But what do you get? The satisfaction of watching someone talented get an opportunity they deserve. And potentially, if your show does well, a professional relationship with an artist whose work I respect. He paused. Is that answer supposed to make you feel better or worse? I don't know yet. Fair enough. He leaned back, studying her. What would make you feel better? Honestly, if you told me this was some elaborate scheme to get me into bed, I'd understand that. I could navigate that, but this... She gestured vaguely between them. I don't know what this is. Neither do I. The admission surprised her. You don't? No, I don't make a habit of leaving my own events to get Thai food with strangers. I don't typically involve myself in other people's personal vendettas, and I definitely don't sit in terrible coffee shops on Saturday mornings. He met her eyes. But here we are. Why? I told you last night. When I looked at you, I saw someone worth paying attention to. That's not an answer. That's a deflection. Adrian's mouth quirked. You're direct. I like that. Stop deflecting. He was quiet for a moment, his finger tracing the rim of his coffee cup. When he spoke, his voice was lower, more careful. When you build something from nothing, when you claw your way up from a neighborhood where success means getting out alive, you learn to recognize potential, not just in investments or properties or business deals, in people. You learn to spot the ones who have something real underneath all the noise. He looked at her. I saw that in you, someone who refuses to perform, even when performance would make everything easier. That's rare enough that when I see it, I pay attention. And what happens when you pay attention? Usually, I invest. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I've built my entire life on trusting my instincts about what has value. I'm not an investment. No, you're a person. Which is exactly why this conversation is difficult. He ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. I'm good at business. I understand transactions, negotiations, risk assessment. I'm less good at... He gestured between them. Whatever this is. Do you want to know what I think this is? Lena asked. Tell me. I think you saw someone in trouble and decided to fix it because you could. I think you're used to solving problems with money and power, and this looked like a problem you could solve. And now you're realizing that I'm not actually a problem to be solved. I'm a person with my own agency and complications, and you're not sure what to do with that. Adrian stared at her. Then he laughed, a real laugh, surprised and genuine. You're absolutely right, he said. That's exactly what happened. So what do we do now? I have no idea. He picked up his terrible coffee, took another sip, set it back down. What do you want to do? Lena thought about it, about the gallery show, about her work, about the possibility of being seen, really seen. Not as a joke or a project or a story someone told at dinner parties, but as an artist who had something to say. I want the gallery show, she said, but I want it on my terms. Which are? No interference. You make the introduction, you get Rebecca Morris her lease extension, and then you step back. The work is mine. The success or failure is mine. You don't get to swoop in and fix it if things go wrong. Agreed. And this? She gestured between them again. Whatever this is, it stays separate. The gallery show doesn't come with strings attached. It doesn't. You say that now, but what happens in a month when the novelty wears off and you realize, I'm just a struggling photographer from Brooklyn who can't navigate your world? What happens when I embarrass you at some event or say the wrong thing to the wrong person? Adrian's expression went hard. I don't embarrass easily, and I don't care what anyone thinks about who I choose to spend my time with. Everyone cares what people think. Not me, not anymore. He leaned forward. I spent 20 years proving myself to people who never thought I belonged. I made my fortune, earned my place, bought half the city. And you know what I learned? Those people still don't think I belong. They take my money and attend my events and smile to my face, but I'll always be the kid from Queens who got lucky, so I stopped trying to convince them. But you still host those dinners, you still play the game. Because the game has utility. Because I need those connections to operate. But that doesn't mean I care about their opinions. There's a difference between participation and subscription. Lena absorbed that. So you're saying if I take this opportunity, you won't hold it against me when I inevitably screw something up? I'm saying I don't expect you to be anything other than who you are, which is more than most people in my life can say. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. There's something else, Lena said. Something I need to tell you before this goes any further. Okay. I'm a mess, like genuinely. I'm broke most of the time. I've got student loans I'll be paying off until I'm 50. My last 3 relationships ended badly. 2 of them were my fault. I have anxiety that sometimes makes it hard to leave my apartment. I'm not some polished success story waiting to happen. I'm just, she struggled for words, trying to figure out how to exist in a world that wasn't built for people like me. Adrian listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. My father was a construction worker, he said finally. Died when I was 16. Heart attack on a job site in Queens. My mother cleaned houses until her knees gave out. I put myself through community college working 3 jobs. My first office was a storage closet in a building I couldn't afford to buy. I built my company on loans I wasn't sure I could repay and deals that should have destroyed me. He met her eyes. I know what it's like to operate without a safety net. I know what it's like to be one mistake away from losing everything. So when you tell me you're a mess, I believe you. I also don't care. Why not? Because everyone's a mess. The only difference is some people have enough money to hide it better. Lena's phone buzzed again, then again. She finally looked at it. 3 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. 2 text messages. The first message was from Marcus. We need to talk. The second was from a number she didn't know. This is Rebecca Morris from the Morris Gallery in Chelsea. I received a very interesting call this morning about featuring your work. Can we meet on Monday to discuss? Lena's hands went cold. He actually did it. Who did what? Adrian asked. She showed him Rebecca's message. You really called her? I said I would. I didn't think you'd do it this fast. Why wait? Lena stared at the message. This was real. This was actually happening. A gallery show. Her work on walls seen by people who mattered. Then she looked at Marcus's message. We need to talk. What does he want? Adrian asked, reading her expression. I don't know, but I can guess. She showed him Marcus's text. Don't respond. I wasn't planning to. Good. Adrian's jaw tightened. He doesn't get to humiliate you and then demand your attention. What did you do to him? Nothing permanent. Let's just say his firm received some information about conflicts of interest in his portfolio management. He'll spend the next few weeks in very uncomfortable meetings with compliance officers. Is the information true? Does it matter? Yes. Adrian sighed. It's true. I wouldn't fabricate evidence, but I also wouldn't have gone looking for it if he hadn't used his connections to hurt you. Lena should have been horrified. Should have told him to back off, to stop interfering, to let her fight her own battles. But the part of her that had spent a year being told she was overreacting, that she was the problem, that she needed to be more sophisticated, that part felt something dangerously close to satisfaction. He cheated on me 3 times, she said quietly, that I know of. Maybe more. And every time I found out, he made it my fault, said I was too needy, too insecure, too dramatic, that if I were more confident, more self-sufficient, he wouldn't need to look elsewhere. He's an idiot. He's a successful finance guy with a nice apartment and important friends. He's still an idiot? Adrian's voice was flat, certain. Success doesn't equal intelligence. Money doesn't equal worth. He's a mediocre man who made you feel small because it made him feel big. That's not sophistication. That's cruelty. Lena felt something crack in her chest. Not breaking. Opening wider. Why do you care so much? She asked. About what happened to me, about Marcus, about any of this. Adrian was quiet for a long time. Outside, a group of teenagers walked past, laughing about something on someone's phone. A woman struggled with a stroller and too many grocery bags. Life continued, oblivious. Because I spent 20 years watching people like Marcus and Catherine and Victoria operate, Adrian said finally. Watching them build themselves up by tearing others down. Watching them win, over and over, because the system's designed to protect them. And I got tired of it. He looked at her. I have power now. Real power. The kind that can actually change things. And if I don't use it to make their lives harder and your life easier, Then what's the point of having it? That sounds like revenge. Maybe it is. Maybe that's okay. Lena's phone rang. Marcus again. She declined the call. He's not going to stop, Adrian said. Men like him don't handle rejection well, especially when there are consequences. What do you think he'll do? Try to gaslight you into thinking you overreacted. Try to make you feel guilty for his problems. Probably try to convince you that I'm dangerous and you should stay away from me. Are you dangerous? Yes. The honesty of it stopped her. To me? No. But I could be. That's the point. I have enough money and influence to ruin lives. I choose not to use it that way with people I care about. But I could. That makes me dangerous. And you're telling me this because you should know what you're getting into. If we're going to be, he paused, searching for the word, whatever we're going to be, you should know who I am, what I'm capable of. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest. Lena studied him, the scar above his eyebrow, the crooked nose, the hands that had built an empire from nothing, the eyes that had seen her completely and decided she was worth defending. I'm not scared of you, she said. Maybe you should be. Maybe. But I'm not. Her phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. Marcus had left a message. Against her better judgment, she played it on speaker. Marcus's voice filled the space between them, smooth and controlled even through obvious anger. Lena, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this needs to stop. I just spent 3 hours in a meeting with our compliance department answering questions about my client relationships. Someone's been digging through my files, and I know it's connected to you. Whatever game you're playing, whatever wealthy boyfriend you found to fight your battles, it ends now. You're embarrassing yourself. Call me back. We need to fix this before it gets worse. The message ended. Lena stared at her phone. He thinks I'm behind it. Let him think that. He called you my wealthy boyfriend. Inaccurate on both counts. Adrian's expression was unreadable, but telling. What do you mean? He's trying to diminish what's happening to him by making it about you, making it about some woman scorned who found a sugar daddy to do her dirty work. It lets him avoid confronting the actual problem, that he's genuinely in trouble for things he actually did. Should I respond? Do you want to? Lena thought about it, about all the times she'd responded to Marcus's calls, his texts, his demands for her attention. All the times she'd tried to explain herself, justify her feelings, make him understand how he'd hurt her. All the times she'd shrunk herself to fit his narrative. No, she said, I don't want to respond. Then don't. She blocked his number. It felt like closing a door. Good, Adrian said. He checked his watch. I have a meeting in an hour, but before I go, tell me about your work. What are you planning for the gallery show? The shift in topic caught her off guard. I don't know yet. Rebecca and I haven't even talked. But you must have ideas. You're an artist. You're always thinking about the next piece. He was right. She was always thinking about it. Even when she couldn't afford to shoot, even when she was working event photography gigs to pay rent, part of her brain was always composing shots, seeing light, finding moments worth capturing. There's this series I've been working on, Lena said slowly. Nothing formal, just images I take for myself. People in transit, subway platforms, bus stops, airports, moments when people think no one's watching them. Show me. She pulled out her phone, opened the folder she'd created last night, started scrolling through images. A woman crying on the F train platform. A businessman asleep against a bus window. 2 teenagers holding hands in the airport saying goodbye. A homeless man feeding pigeons his breakfast. Adrian looked at each image carefully, taking his time. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, softened. These are extraordinary, he said finally. They're just, don't diminish them. They're extraordinary. He looked up at her. This is what you should show. This series. It's not finished. I'd need at least 20 more images to fill a gallery wall. So finish it. That takes time and money. Film costs money. Processing costs money. How much money? I don't know. A few thousand probably, for film, processing, printing, framing. Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something, showed her the screen. It was a Venmo transfer, $5,000. I can't accept that, Lena said immediately. It's not charity, it's an investment in work I believe in. We literally just had a conversation about the gallery show not coming with strings attached. This isn't strings. This is me putting my money where my mouth is. If I say your work is valuable, I should be willing to invest in it, not through favors or connections, but directly. Material support for material work. And if the show fails, if no one buys anything, then I'll have $5,000 worth of photographs that I like. That's not a loss. Lena stared at the screen. $5,000. That was her rent for 3 months. That was her student loan payment for half a year. That was equipment she needed, film she'd been rationing, opportunities she'd turned down because she couldn't afford to take them. I'll pay you back, she said. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to make the work. Adrian, take the money, Lena. Make your series. Show Rebecca Morris what you can do when you're not constantly worried about rent. She accepted the transfer. Her hands were shaking. Thank you, she said quietly. You're welcome. He stood, buttoned his jacket. I need to get to that meeting, but text me after you talk to Rebecca. Let me know how it goes. Okay. He started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. Tonight, there's a benefit at the Museum of Modern Art. Contemporary art, champagne, the usual performance. I have tickets. Would you like to come? As what? Your date? As my guest. No pressure, no expectations, just an opportunity to see some art and meet some people who might be useful to know. Every instinct told her to say no. This was too much, too fast, too far outside her world. But another part of her, the part that had decided this morning to stop hiding, wanted to say yes. What's the dress code? She asked. Black tie optional, which means women wear gowns and men wear tuxedos, but everyone pretends it's casual. I don't have a gown. There's a boutique 3 blocks from here. Tell them you're attending the MoMA benefit with me. They'll take care of you. I can't afford... I have an account there. It's handled. Adrian, you can't just... I'm not buying you a dress. I'm providing appropriate attire for an event I've invited you to. There's a difference. That's the thinnest rationalization I've ever heard. Probably, but it's true nonetheless. He smiled. 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up. Text me your address. Then he was gone, leaving Lena alone with her terrible coffee and her racing thoughts and the weight of $5,000 in her account that felt like both possibility and pressure. She sat there for a long time, watching the neighborhood move past the window. Normal people doing normal things, unaware that somewhere in their midst, a woman was having a very strange day. Finally, she texted Maya, I need your help with something. The response came immediately. What did he do now? He gave me $5,000 to finish my series and invited me to a black tie event at MoMA tonight and told me to go buy a gown on his account. There was a long pause. Then, I'm coming over. Don't make any decisions until I get there. Lena paid for her coffee, still terrible, but somehow comforting in its mediocrity, and walked home. The October air was crisp, the leaves just starting to turn. Brooklyn felt different than it had yesterday. Not changed exactly, just clearer. Like someone had adjusted the exposure and suddenly everything was in sharper focus. Maya was waiting on the stoop when she arrived, looking concerned and intrigued in equal measure. Tell me everything, Maya said, and don't leave out the weird parts. So Lena told her about the coffee shop, the conversation, the money, Marcus's voicemail, the MoMA invitation, all of it. Maya listened, her expression cycling through disbelief, anger at Marcus, concern, and finally something that might have been cautious approval. Okay, Maya said when Lena finished. Here's what I think. I think this guy is either genuinely trying to help you or he's playing a very long game. I can't tell which yet. But either way, you're getting opportunities you wouldn't get otherwise. So the question is, are you willing to take the risk? What risk? That he's actually a good person who sees something in you. Because if he is, and you reject it out of fear or pride or whatever, you'll regret it. But if he's not, if this is some complicated manipulation, you'll get hurt. Maya squeezed her hand. I can't tell you which it is, but I know you. And I know you're going to take the risk anyway, because that's who you are. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a you thing, which means it's both. They went inside. Jordan was up, making breakfast and listening to a podcast about cryptocurrency. They explained the situation. Jordan's response was, take the money, go to the party, see what happens. And then the three of them spent the afternoon helping Lena prepare. The boutique Adrian mentioned was called Rousseau, and it was exactly the kind of place Lena would normally walk past without looking. The windows displayed single garments on minimal mannequins, a red silk gown, a black tuxedo jacket, shoes that probably cost more than her camera. She walked in feeling like an imposter. A woman approached immediately, late 50s, elegant in a way that looked effortless but definitely wasn't. Can I help you? I'm supposed to be attending an event tonight at MoMA with Adrian Voss. He said I should say no more. The woman's entire demeanor shifted. Not warmer exactly, but focused, professional. I'm Simone. Come with me. For the next hour, Lena was measured, draped, fitted, and assessed. Simone brought out gowns in midnight blue, emerald green, deep burgundy. Each one was more beautiful than the last. This one, Simone said finally, holding up a dress in charcoal silk. Simple lines, elegant cut, nothing ostentatious. This is you. Lena tried it on. Simone was right. The dress fit like it had been made for her, sophisticated without being flashy, beautiful without trying too hard. Shoes, Simone said, disappearing into the back. By the time Lena left, she had the dress, shoes, a small clutch, and a growing sense that she'd stepped into someone else's life. Someone who went to galas at MoMA. Someone who wore gowns that cost more than her monthly income. Someone who belonged in Adrian Voss's world. But walking home with the garment bag over her shoulder, Lena reminded herself she wasn't trying to become someone else. She was trying to become more fully herself. And if that self sometimes wore borrowed gowns to museum benefits, well, maybe that was just part of the story. At 6:30, she started getting ready. Maya helped with her hair. Down, soft waves, nothing too formal. Minimal makeup. The same gold earrings from last night. When she put on the dress, Maya whistled low. Damn, Jordan said from the doorway. You look like you could buy and sell all of us. I look like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. No, Maya said firmly. You look like yourself in a really good dress. There's a difference. At 7 exactly, Lena's phone buzzed. I'm downstairs. She took a breath, grabbed the clutch, looked at herself one more time in the mirror. You've got this, Maya said. Lena wasn't sure she believed it, but she went downstairs anyway. Adrian was waiting by the car, and when he saw her, something in his expression shifted. Not surprise, exactly. Recognition, maybe. You look perfect, he said. I look expensive. You look like yourself, which happens to be perfect. He opened the car door. Lena got in, and they drove toward Manhattan, toward the museum, toward whatever came next. The Museum of Modern Art at night was a different beast than during the day. The crowds were gone, replaced by people who moved through art like they owned it, which, Lena supposed, some of them probably did. The sculpture garden was lit with soft amber light. Servers circulated with champagne and small plates of food that looked too perfect to eat. And everywhere she looked, people were performing wealth with the kind of casual precision that took years to master. Adrian's hand was light on her lower back as they entered, guiding her through the crowd. She felt eyes turn toward them, felt the weight of assessment and curiosity and calculation. Whispers followed in their wake. Ignore them, Adrian said quietly. They're trying to figure out who you are and whether you matter. Do I matter? You're with me. That makes you interesting by default. He steered them toward a quieter corner away from the thickest part of the crowd. How are you doing? Terrified. Good. Fear means you're paying attention. A man approached, 60s, silver hair, expensive suit that somehow looked rumpled. He had kind eyes and a smile that seemed genuine. Adrian, he said warmly, I was hoping I'd see you tonight. Thomas, Adrian shook his hand. This is Lena Carter. Lena, Thomas Brennan. He runs the contemporary photography department here. Lena's stomach dropped. This was Thomas Brennan. The Thomas Brennan. She'd studied his curatorial work in school, read every interview he'd ever given, followed his career like some people followed sports. It's an honor, she managed. Adrian tells me you're a photographer, Thomas said. Lena shot Adrian a look. You've been talking about me. I mentioned you might have work worth seeing, Adrian said. Thomas has been looking for fresh voices for an upcoming group show. That's not... You can't just... Lena struggled to find words that weren't either grateful or furious. She settled on both. I haven't even had my first show yet. All the more reason to get you in front of people, Thomas said. He pulled out his phone. Do you have a portfolio I could look at? Lena's hands were shaking as she opened her phone, pulled up her work. Thomas scrolled through in silence, his expression unreadable. The seconds stretched into centuries. These are good, he said finally. The transit series especially. There's real intimacy here, real observation. He looked up. Send me your full portfolio. I can't promise anything, but I'd like to see more. He handed her a business card, actual paper, thick stock, embossed letters, and excused himself to speak with someone across the room. Lena turned to Adrian. You set that up. I mentioned you were talented. He asked to meet you. I facilitated an introduction. That's not vacillating, that's orchestrating. Is there a difference? Yes. One is helping, the other is controlling. Adrian's expression didn't change. Would you have approached Thomas Brennan on your own? Eventually, maybe, I don't know. But you would have spent months or years working up the courage, building the perfect portfolio, waiting for the right moment. And meanwhile, other artists, less talented, less deserving, but better connected, would have taken the opportunities you were too afraid to pursue. That's not fair. No, it's not. None of this is fair. That's my point. He took 2 glasses of champagne from a passing server, handed her one. You have talent. You have vision. What you don't have is access. I'm giving you access. What you do with it is up to you. Before Lena could respond, a woman's voice cut through the air like a knife. Adrian Voss, I heard you were here? Lena turned. The woman approaching was stunning in that calculated way that required effort but looked effortless. Blonde hair styled in perfect waves, red dress that probably cost more than Lena's camera, diamonds at her throat and wrists that caught the light like small fires. Catherine. From the restaurant. From the humiliation. Adrian's entire demeanor changed. Not obviously, his expression stayed neutral, his posture relaxed. But Lena felt him go cold beside her. Catherine, he said flatly. I wanted to apologize for the other night. Catherine's smile was brilliant and completely empty. There was clearly some miscommunication about the guest list. I had no idea you'd be so affected by the situation. You knew exactly what you were doing. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. Catherine turned to Lena, her eyes raking over the dress, the shoes, every visible inch. And you must be the photographer. I hope you've recovered from your little ordeal. I'm fine, Lena said. Her voice came out steady. Thank you for your concern. Of course. We were all so worried when you ran off like that. It seemed like perhaps the environment was a bit much for you. I didn't run off. I left. There's a difference. Catherine's smile thinned. Semantics. Truth, Lena corrected. The air between them crackled. Adrian was watching the exchange with something that might have been satisfaction. Well, Catherine said after a beat, I hope you enjoy the evening. Though I have to say, these events can be terribly dull if you don't know anyone. So much insider talk, so many references to people and places and things you'd have no context for. She touched Lena's arm lightly, condescension dripping from every word. Don't worry if you feel lost. It's perfectly natural. Actually, Adrian said, his voice cutting through Catherine's performance, Lena just spent 20 minutes discussing contemporary photography with Thomas Brennan, so I think she'll manage. Catherine's face went still. Thomas Brennan. He's very interested in her work, asked to see her full portfolio, mentioned a group show. The color drained from Catherine's face. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. How wonderful, she managed finally. I'm sure that will be educational for you. She walked away without another word, her heels clicking sharp against the floor. Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Did you have to do that? Do what? Throw the Thomas Brennan thing in her face. She was trying to make you feel small. I was reminding her that you're not. By using your connections and your power to what? Give you the recognition you deserve? Make it harder for people like her to dismiss you? Adrian set down his champagne. I'm not going to apologize for defending you. I didn't ask you to defend me. You didn't have to ask. They stood in tense silence. Around them, the party continued, laughter and conversation and the soft clink of glasses. Normal people at a normal event, completely unaware of the small war being waged in their midst. I need some air, Lena said. She walked out to the sculpture garden before Adrian could respond. The October night was cool, almost cold, but it felt good against her heated skin. She found a bench near a Calder Mobile, watched it turn slowly in the breeze. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn around. I'm not angry at you, she said. I'm angry at the situation, at the fact that I need you to defend me, at the fact that without your name and your money and your influence, none of this matters. My work doesn't matter, my talent doesn't matter. I'm just another struggling artist in a city full of struggling artists, and the only reason anyone's paying attention is because you decided I was worth paying attention to. Adrian sat down beside her, not too close, leaving space between them. You're right, he said. That surprised her. I am? Yes. The system is rigged. Talent matters less than connections. Access matters more than skill. People like Catherine and her friends control the gates, and they only open them for people who look like them, sound like them, come from the same world they do. He paused. But you're wrong about one thing. What? Your work does matter. Your talent does matter. I didn't create that. I just recognized it. What I'm giving you isn't legitimacy. You already have that. I'm giving you visibility. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks the same. It's not. Adrian turned to face her. If your work was mediocre, if you had nothing to say, if you were just another competent photographer with decent technical skills and no vision, my connections wouldn't matter. Thomas Brennan wouldn't have asked for your portfolio. Rebecca Morris wouldn't be interested in showing your work. They're not doing me favors. They're recognizing talent that would have found them eventually anyway. I'm just accelerating the timeline. You can't know that. Yes, I can. I've spent 20 years watching mediocre people fail upward because of connections. I know what it looks like when someone's being carried by their network. That's not what this is. You're not being carried. You're being seen. Lena wanted to believe him, wanted to accept that maybe this wasn't charity or manipulation or some elaborate game she didn't understand. But accepting that meant accepting her own worth, and that felt more dangerous than anything else. What if I fail? She asked quietly. What if I get the gallery show and the group show at MoMA and none of it works? What if my work isn't actually good enough? Then you'll fail, and you'll learn from it, and you'll make better work. Adrian's voice was matter-of-fact, not unkind. But you won't fail because you're not talented enough. If you fail, it'll be because you talked yourself out of believing you deserve success. That's a lot of pressure. Yes, it is. He stood, offered his hand. Want to go back inside? Or would you rather leave? Lena looked at his hand, at the party visible through the windows, all those people performing their lives for each other. At the sculpture garden, quiet and still in the night. Let's go back in, she said. I'm not done yet. They walked back inside together. The party had shifted, conversations flowing into different configurations. Lena spotted Catherine across the room, deep in discussion with a man in a tuxedo. She looked up as Lena entered, and their eyes met. Lena didn't look away, didn't shrink, just held Catherine's gaze until the other woman looked away first. Small victory, but still a victory. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and conversations and champagne that went to her head faster than it should have. Adrian introduced her to gallery owners, curators, collectors. Each time he positioned her not as his guest, not as his project, but as an artist worth knowing. And slowly, carefully, Lena started to believe it. A woman in her 70s with sharp eyes and a sharper wit spent 20 minutes grilling Lena about her influences, her process, her vision. A young curator asked for her Instagram handle. A collector mentioned he'd be interested in seeing her transit series when it was complete. By the time they left, Lena's head was spinning with possibility and terror in equal measure. In the car, Adrian was quiet, checking his phone, responding to messages, giving her space to process. Thank you, Lena said finally. For what? For tonight. For the introductions. For...
She gestured vaguely. For making me feel like I belonged there. You did belong there. I didn't, though. Not really. Everyone else had credentials, history, established careers. I'm just... Stop. Adrian's voice was sharp. Stop diminishing yourself. You belong there because you're talented, because your work deserves to be seen, not because I brought you, because you earned the right to be there through years of work that no one was paying attention to. He looked at her. I didn't make you belong. I just made sure people noticed you already did. Lena felt something shift in her chest. Not quite belief, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Why me? Really? Not the speech about recognizing talent or seeing potential. The real reason. Why did you look at me in that restaurant and decide to blow up your own event? Adrian was quiet for a long time. The car moved through Manhattan, traffic lights painting streaks of red and green across the windows. Because when I looked at you, he said finally, I saw someone who was about to leave. Someone who'd figured out the game and decided not to play it. And I've spent 20 years watching people play that game, watching them compromise and perform and slowly become the thing they pretended to be. I've become that thing. He met her eyes. When I saw you were about to walk out, I thought, here's someone who still has the courage to leave. Someone who hasn't been broken yet. And I wanted to see what would happen if someone like that had the resources to stay. You make it sound like an experiment. Maybe it is. Maybe we're both the experiment. He smiled, but there was something sad in it. I've spent so long operating in that world that I'm not sure I remember what it's like to exist outside of it, to make choices based on what's real instead of what's strategic, to be with someone because they see me, not because they want something from me. I don't want anything from you. I know, that's the point. The car pulled up outside Lena's building. Adrian walked her to the door again, hands in his pockets, looking more uncertain than she'd ever seen him. I want to see you again, he said. Not for another event, not for business. Just to see you. Like a date? If you want to call it that. What would you call it? Honest. He looked at her. I'd call it honest. Lena thought about it, about the complications, the power imbalance, the ways this could go wrong, about Maya's warnings and her own instincts screaming that this was too much too fast. Okay, she said. Okay? Honest sounds good. Let's try honest. Adrian's smile was real this time. Full and real and almost boyish. Monday? He asked. There's a place in the East Village. Cuban food, live music, terrible acoustics. We could get dinner, talk about something other than art and revenge and your ex-boyfriend. What would we talk about? I have no idea. That's what makes it interesting. Lena laughed. Monday works. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle it made her breath catch. Get some sleep, he said, and call Rebecca Morris on Monday morning. Don't let her think you're not interested. I won't. Good. He started to leave, then turned back. Lena? Yeah? You were magnificent tonight. Not because of the dress or the introductions or any of it, because you showed up as yourself and didn't apologize for it. Don't forget that. Then he was gone, back into the car, disappearing into the city. Lena stood on the stoop for a long time, trying to organize her thoughts, trying to understand what was happening, what she felt, whether this was real or whether she was being swept up in something she'd regret. Her phone buzzed. Maya. You alive? How'd it go? Lena typed, I met Thomas Brennan and Catherine and about 50 other people whose names I've already forgotten. And Adrian asked me on a real date. The response came immediately. Details. Now. I'm coming over. It's almost midnight. Did I stutter? 20 minutes later, Maya was sitting on Lena's bed, listening to every detail with the focus of an FBI interrogator. So let me get this straight, Maya said when Lena finished. He introduced you to literally one of the most important people in contemporary photography. Publicly defended you against that Catherine woman, told you that you belonged there based on your own merit, and then asked you out to a Cuban place with bad acoustics. Yes? And you said yes. I did. Maya was quiet for a moment. I think he might actually be a good guy. You sound surprised. I am surprised. Men with that kind of money and power, they don't usually, she gestured vaguely, care. They don't put in the effort. They don't see people as people. But he seems to actually see you. Is that enough? I don't know. Is it? Lena thought about the way Adrian had looked at her work, really looked at it, about the way he defended her without making it about himself, about the way he'd admitted uncertainty, admitted he didn't know what this was any more than she did. I think I want to find out, she said. Then find out. Maya squeezed her hand. But be careful. Not because I think he's going to hurt you, because I think you're already halfway to caring about him, and that makes you vulnerable. I know. Good. As long as you know. After Maya left, Lena got ready for bed, took off the dress, hung it carefully in her closet. She'd have to return it to Rousseau tomorrow. The thought made her sad. She'd felt powerful in that dress, like someone who could hold her own in rooms full of people who'd spent their lives learning to exclude her. But the dress wasn't what had made her powerful. She'd done that herself. She pulled out her phone, looked at Thomas Brennan's business card, Rebecca Morris's message about the gallery show, thought about the transit series, the images she needed to complete it, the $5,000 sitting in her account waiting to be transformed into art. She opened her calendar, blocked out time for shooting, made a list of locations, Penn Station, Grand Central, the subway platforms she'd been documenting for years, made notes about light, about timing, about the moment she wanted to capture. This was real. This was actually happening, and it terrified her. On Monday morning, Leanna called Rebecca Morris. They set up a meeting for Tuesday afternoon. Rebecca wanted to see the full transit series, wanted to discuss installation, wanted to talk about timing and promotion and all the practical details that Lena had never had to think about before. I should mention, Rebecca said near the end of the call, that Adrian Voss spoke very highly of your work, but I don't show artists as favors. If your work wasn't genuinely interesting, this conversation wouldn't be happening. I appreciate that, Lena said, and I appreciate your honesty. Good, because I'm going to be honest about the work too. If it's not ready, if it's not cohesive, I'll tell you. This is my gallery's reputation on the line, not just yours. Understood. After she hung up, Lena sat with her coffee and her racing heart and the realization that she had about 6 weeks to complete a series she'd been casually working on for 2 years. 6 weeks to transform scattered images into a cohesive vision. 6 weeks to prove that Adrian's faith in her wasn't misplaced. She spent the rest of Monday shooting. Penn Station at rush hour, capturing the exhaustion and determination in commuter faces. The subway platform at West 4th Street, where musicians played for indifferent crowds. The bus terminal in the afternoon, where goodbyes happened against a backdrop of diesel fumes and departure announcements. By evening, she had 50 new images. Maybe 5 were worth keeping. She went home, processed the film, reviewed the contact sheets, made notes about what worked and what didn't, started planning the next shoot. At 7, Adrian texted, "Still on for tonight?" She'd completely forgotten about their date, about everything except the work. "Yes." "Sorry. Got caught up shooting." "Good. That's exactly where you should be. See you at 8. She showered, changed into jeans and a sweater, took the subway to the East Village. The restaurant was called Havana Social, and it was exactly as advertised. Loud, crowded, filled with the smell of garlic and plantains and the sound of live salsa that made conversation nearly impossible. Adrian was already there, at a small table in the back, looking utterly out of place and completely comfortable about it. "You look tired," he said when she sat down. I've been shooting all day, processing, planning the next round." "How's it going?" "Slowly. I have 6 weeks to finish this series, and I'm not even halfway there." "You'll finish it. You sound very confident." "I am confident. In you, if not in myself." The waiter came, took their order. Around them, the restaurant pulsed with life and music and the kind of genuine joy that couldn't be performed. "Tell me about your day," Lena said. "And don't tell me about work. Tell me about something real." Adrian thought about it. "I had lunch with my mother." I didn't know you still did that." "Every Monday. She lives in the same apartment in Queens where I grew up. Refuses to move. Refuses to let me buy her a house. Refuses to accept that I can afford to make her life easier." Sounds stubborn. "Incredibly. She says she doesn't want charity from her own son." He smiled. "So instead, I take her to lunch every Monday and pretend I'm not paying for renovations to her building through a shell company she doesn't know I own. Lena laughed. That's sneaky. That's survival. If I tried to help her directly, she'd lecture me for an hour about pride and self-sufficiency. She sounds like someone I'd like. She'd like you too. She has a thing about people who work hard and don't complain. The food came. Rice and beans and roasted pork that fell apart at the touch of a fork. They ate and talked about nothing important. His mother's opinions on gentrification, Lena's roommate Jordan's terrible taste in romantic partners, the best coffee in Brooklyn, whether the Yankees or the Mets were the correct choice for a Queens kid who'd made good. It was easy. Surprisingly easy. Can I ask you something? Lena said. Always. When you were building your company, when you were struggling, did you ever feel like a fraud? Like you were pretending to be someone you weren't? Adrian set down his fork. Every single day. For years. I'd walk into meetings with investors and developers and people who'd inherited their wealth, and I'd feel like they could smell Queens on me. Like they knew I didn't belong. What changed? I stopped caring whether I belonged, started caring whether I succeeded. There's a difference. He met her eyes. Belonging is about fitting in. Success is about standing out. I couldn't do both, so I chose success. Do you ever regret it? Choosing success? No, but I regret some of what I had to become to achieve it. Like what? Harder, less trusting, more strategic. I learned to see people as assets or liabilities instead of just people. I learned to calculate relationships instead of just having them. He paused. That's why you're terrifying. I'm terrifying? Yes. Because I don't know how to calculate you. I don't know how to put you in a category or assign you a value. You're just, he struggled for the word, real. And I don't know what to do with real anymore. Lena reached across the table, took his hand. You could try being real back. His fingers tightened around hers. I'm not sure I remember how. Then we'll figure it out together. They sat like that for a moment, hands linked across the table, the restaurant roaring around them with life and music and the beautiful chaos of people being themselves. Someone bumped their table, apologizing profusely. The moment broke. They pulled their hands back, returned to their food, but something had shifted. Some invisible wall had come down. After dinner, they walked through the East Village, past dive bars and vintage shops, and the remnants of a neighborhood that used to be dangerous and was now just expensive. The night was cold, the kind of cold that promised winter wasn't far off. I should get home, Lena said finally. Early shoot tomorrow. Where? Grand Central. 6 a.m. before the crowds. That's ambitious. That's necessary. I only have 6 weeks. Adrian flagged a cab, held the door open for her. Thank you for tonight, Lena said. For normal, for honest, for all of it. Thank you for giving me a reason to remember what those words mean. She kissed him, quick, impulsive, before she could think about all the reasons it was a bad idea. He kissed her back, gentle but certain, like he'd been thinking about it too. When they broke apart, Lena was breathless. Was that honest enough? She asked. It's a start. She got in the cab, watched him through the window as they pulled away. He stood on the curb until she was out of sight, hands in his pockets, looking more alone than anyone should look in a city of 8 million people. Lena touched her fingers to her lips, still feeling the kiss, still trying to understand what she was doing, what they were doing, whether this was the smartest decision she'd ever made or the stupidest. Her phone buzzed. Adrian. 6 a.m. at Grand Central is early even for workaholics. Want company? She stared at the message, typed, You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to. I've never seen you work. It's boring. A lot of waiting for the right light and the right moment. Then I'll wait with you. Lena hesitated. This felt significant somehow, letting him into her process, into the vulnerable, uncertain space where art happened. But maybe that was the point. Maybe honest meant showing him the parts that weren't polished yet. Okay, she typed. Meet me at the information booth. 5:45. Don't be late. I'm never late. She smiled, put away her phone, and let the cab carry her home through the city she'd chosen, the life she was building, the story she was finally ready to tell.
Adrian was waiting at the information booth when Lena arrived at 5:43, holding 2 cups of coffee that steamed in the early morning cold. Grand Central was nearly empty at this hour, just cleaning crews and a handful of commuters catching the earliest trains out of the city. The light coming through the eastern windows was pale and soft, the kind of light that existed for maybe 20 minutes before the sun burned it away. "You actually came," Lena said, taking one of the coffees. "I said I would. Most people say a lot of things. I'm not most people." She smiled despite herself. "No, you're really not." They stood there for a moment, drinking terrible station coffee and watching the main concourse wake up. A woman in scrubs hurried past, late for a shift. A businessman checked his watch, anxious about a train. 2 teenagers slept on a bench, backpacks clutched close, maybe runaways, or maybe just kids coming home from somewhere they shouldn't have been. "What are you looking for?" Adrian asked quietly. "I don't know until I see it. That's the whole point." Lena pulled out her camera, a Leica M6, film, nothing digital. Transit spaces are interesting because everyone's between somewhere, between home and work, between who they were and who they're becoming. People let their guard down in that in-between space. They forget to perform. And that's when you shoot them. That's when I document them. There's a difference. She raised the camera, framed a shot through the viewfinder. An elderly man stood alone on the platform, visible through the archway, staring down the tracks like he was waiting for a train that would never come. The light caught the side of his face, deepened the lines around his eyes. Lena waited, breathing slowly, finger light on the shutter. The man turned slightly. His expression shifted, from patience to resignation to something that might have been grief. Click. She lowered the camera. "Did you get it?" Adrian asked. "Maybe. Won't know until I develop it." "That must be frustrating, not knowing." "It's part of the process. Film forces you to trust yourself. You can't check the LCD, can't delete and reshoot. You make the choice and you live with it." They moved through the station, Lena shooting sparingly, Adrian staying quiet beside her. He seemed content to just watch, to see how she worked. Most people got bored after 20 minutes. Maya had tried to come along once and lasted an hour before declaring it the most tedious thing she'd ever witnessed. But Adrian stayed, patient and observant, asking occasional questions that showed he was actually paying attention. By 7, the station was filling up. Rush hour crowds poured in, and with them came the noise and the chaos, and the loss of that early morning quiet that made good photographs possible. "I'm done," Lena said, putting the lens cap back on. "How many did you shoot?" "Maybe 20 frames. I'll be lucky if 3 are usable." "That seems like a low success rate." "It is, but those 3 will be perfect," she smiled. "Or at least they'll be true, which is better than perfect." They grabbed breakfast at a diner near Bryant Park, eggs and toast and coffee that was somehow worse than the station coffee. Adrian's phone kept buzzing. He kept ignoring it. "You can check that," Lena said. "I know you have work." "Work can wait." "Can it, though? You run a multi-billion-dollar company." "I run a company that functions perfectly well without me micromanaging every detail. That's what good delegation is for." He finally glanced at his phone, typed a quick response, put it away. "Besides, I'd rather be here." "Watching me eat scrambled eggs?" "Watching you be yourself. It's refreshing." Lena set down her fork. "Can I ask you something? And I need you to be completely honest. Always. Are you doing this because you actually care about me? Or because I'm different from the people you usually spend time with, and different feels interesting right now?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. He picked up his coffee, set it back down without drinking. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe both. Maybe I can't separate the two." He met her eyes. "I care about you, I know that much. Whether it's because of who you are or because of how you make me feel about myself, I can't say. Does it matter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because if you're with me to feel better about yourself, then I'm still just a function, a mirror that reflects back something you want to see, and I've spent enough of my life being what other people needed me to be." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the city was fully awake now, taxis honking, people rushing, the endless churn of New York being New York. "You're right," he said, "and I don't have a good answer for you. All I can tell you is that when I'm with you, I feel like I can exhale. Like I don't have to calculate every word, every gesture, every interaction. That might be selfish. It probably is selfish, but it's true. What happens when you get used to that feeling, when it stops being new? I don't know. What happens when you get used to having access and opportunities? When you stop feeling like an outsider? That's different. Is it? We're both using each other for something. You need the connections I can provide. I need the honesty you're willing to give. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all anyone has. Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to say that relationships should be about more than mutual benefit, more than what each person could extract from the other. But she wasn't sure she believed that anymore. Marcus had taught her that love without utility was just performance. That people stayed together because they got something out of it, whether that something was status or security or the comfort of not being alone. Maybe Adrian was just honest about the transaction. I have a meeting with Rebecca Morris this afternoon, she said, changing the subject because she didn't have an answer to his question. Want to come? Do you want me there? I'm not sure. Part of me thinks I should do it alone. Prove I can handle it without you, but another part thinks... She hesitated. Another part thinks maybe it's okay to have support. Maybe doing everything alone isn't strength, it's just stubbornness. Which part wins? I don't know yet. Ask me again at 2 o'clock. They finished breakfast. Adrian paid, waving off her attempt to split the check with a look that said they both knew she couldn't afford it. Another reminder of the imbalance between them. Another small humiliation she had to swallow. She hated it. Hated needing his money, his connections, his casual ability to make things happen with a phone call. Hated that her talent wasn't enough on its own, that the world required her to have advocates with power before anyone would listen. But hating it didn't change it. They parted at the subway station. Adrian had meetings all day. Something about a property acquisition in Tribeca that was either going to make him richer or create a legal nightmare. She hadn't been listening closely. Lena went home, spent the morning in her makeshift darkroom, developing the film from Grand Central. The images emerged slowly in the chemical bath. The elderly man on the platform, perfect. A woman crying in the waiting area, too obvious. A couple saying goodbye, almost, but the light was wrong. A businessman checking his watch, his face a study in controlled anxiety. Yes, definitely yes. By noon, she had 5 images worth keeping. 2 she loved. That was better than she'd expected. Maya came home around 1, fresh from a morning shift at the bookstore where she worked between acting gigs. You look exhausted, Maya said. Been up since 4:30. Let me guess, shooting with your billionaire boyfriend? He's not my boyfriend. What is he then? I genuinely don't know. Maya made tea, curled up on the couch, looked at Lena with that particular intensity that meant a serious conversation was coming. Talk to me, Maya said. What's going on in your head? So Lena told her. About the breakfast conversation, about Adrian's honesty regarding mutual benefit, about her own confusion over whether this was real or transactional or some complicated mixture of both. Maya listened, sipping her tea, not interrupting. Here's what I think, Maya said when Lena finished. I think you're terrified that if you accept his help, you'll never know if you could have made it on your own. And I think that's a valid fear, but I also think it's bullshit. How is it bullshit? Because nobody makes it on their own. Nobody. Every successful person you admire got there because someone gave them a chance. Someone opened a door, someone believed in them before the world did. The only difference between you and the people who've already made it is that your door opener is more obvious. He's rich and powerful and willing to use that power for you. That doesn't diminish your talent. It just means you got lucky in addition to being talented. But what if I'm not actually that talented? What if everyone's just being nice because Adrian asked them to be? Thomas Brennan doesn't do nice. Rebecca Morris doesn't show artists as favors. You know this. You're letting your insecurity convince you that you're not good enough. And that's exactly what people like Catherine want. They want you to doubt yourself so much that you sabotage your own success. Lena knew Maya was right, but knowing and believing were different things. At 1:45, she texted Adrian, I want you to come to the meeting, if that's okay. His response was immediate. I'll be there. Want me to pick you up? No, I'll meet you there. I need to do the getting there part myself. Understood. The Morris Gallery was in Chelsea, tucked between a coffee roaster and a boutique that sold furniture made from reclaimed wood. The space was small but well lit, with white walls and concrete floors, and the kind of austere elegance that made art look important. Rebecca Morris herself was in her 50s, with gray hair cut in a sharp bob and glasses that probably cost more than Lena's camera. She had the air of someone who'd spent decades looking at art and had strong opinions about all of it. Adrian arrived exactly at 2, nodded to Rebecca like they were old acquaintances, then stepped back to let Lena take the lead. "Show me what you have," Rebecca said without preamble. Lena opened her portfolio, both digital and prints she'd brought in a leather case Adrian had somehow arranged to be delivered to her apartment yesterday. The Transit series. 40 images, the best work she'd done in 2 years. Rebecca went through them slowly. Her expression didn't change. She made small notes on a tablet, occasionally zooming in on details, once asking about the camera and film stock. The silence stretched. Lena felt sweat gathering at the small of her back. Finally, Rebecca looked up. "These are good," she said. "Better than good. There's real observation here, real empathy. You're not just documenting spaces, you're documenting the human experience of being in transition." She paused. "But they're not ready for a show yet." Lena's stomach dropped. "What's wrong with them?" "Nothing's wrong with them. They're just not complete. You have maybe 60% of a cohesive series here. You need more images that show different types of transit, different emotional registers. Right now, it's heavy on melancholy. I need to see joy, anticipation, boredom, connection, the full spectrum of what it means to move through the world." "How many more images do you think I need?" 15, maybe 20, and they need to be as strong as your best work here. No filler, no settling. Every image has to earn its place. Lena did the math in her head. 20 more images at her current success rate meant shooting at least 300 frames, meant weeks of early mornings and late nights, meant burning through the money Adrian had given her, and then some. "I can do that," she said. "Can you do it in 6 weeks?" "Yes." Rebecca studied her. "You sound very certain." "I am certain. This series matters to me. I'll finish it." "Good." Rebecca made another note. "Assuming the additional work meets the standard of what I've seen today, we'll schedule the show for early December. That gives us time for promotion, for printing and framing, for all the logistics. I'll need final images by mid-November at the latest." "You'll have them. I'm holding you to that." Rebecca closed the portfolio. "Adrian, thank you for the introduction. But I want to be clear. This show is happening because the work deserves it, not because you asked for a favor." "I never thought otherwise," Adrian said. "Good. Then we understand each other." They left the gallery together. Outside, the afternoon sun was warm despite the October chill. Chelsea bustled with people who had better things to do than worry about whether their art was good enough. "That went well," Adrian said. "She basically told me my work isn't finished." "She told you that you have 60% of something excellent. That's not the same as saying it's not good enough. That's saying it has potential to be great if you complete the vision." Lena leaned against the building, suddenly exhausted. "I don't know if I can do this. 20 more images in 6 weeks, while also working enough freelance gigs to pay rent, while also not having a nervous breakdown. What if you didn't have to worry about rent?" She looked at him sharply. "No." "Hear me out. No, absolutely not. You're not paying my rent." "I'm not suggesting I pay your rent. I'm suggesting you sublet your room for 2 months. Use that money for rent. Focus entirely on finishing the series. Maya and Jordan can handle having a temporary roommate." "That's..." Lena started to argue, then stopped. It actually wasn't a terrible idea. "Where would I stay?" "I have a guest room. You'd have privacy, your own space, and you'd be in Manhattan, closer to the transit hubs you need to shoot. That's a huge imposition. It's a practical solution to a logistical problem. It's also incredibly intimate. We've been, whatever this is, for less than a week. Living together it's temporary. It's professional. It's about giving you the time and space to do your best work." Adrian's voice was level, logical. "Unless you think you can finish 20 gallery-quality images in 6 weeks while also working enough to pay rent. In which case, ignore everything I just said." Lena wanted to tell him she could do it. Wanted to prove she didn't need anyone's help, didn't need shortcuts or accommodations or billionaires offering guest rooms. But she'd spent 2 years trying to prove she could do everything alone. and all it had gotten her was exhaustion and a portfolio that was 60% finished. "Let me think about it," she said. "Take all the time you need. But you should know, the offer doesn't come with expectations. You'd have your own space, your own schedule. I work most nights anyway. We'd barely see each other except when you wanted to." "Why are you doing this?" "Because I want to see what you create when you're not constantly worried about survival. Because I think your work matters. Because—" He stopped himself. "Because I can. And it would be stupid not to use resources I have to help create something beautiful." There it was again. That word. Beautiful. Not useful, not profitable, not strategic. Beautiful. "I'll talk to Maya and Jordan tonight," Lena said. "See if they'd be okay with a subletter." "Fair enough." They walked toward the subway station, not touching, maintaining the careful distance of people who weren't quite sure what they were to each other. "Can I buy you dinner?" Adrian asked. "Or are you sick of me yet?" "I'm not sick of you, but I need to process everything that happened today." "Rain check?" "Of course." At the subway entrance, he stopped her with a hand on her arm. "Lena, you're going to finish this series. You're going to have an incredible show. And people are going to see your work and understand what I saw the first time I looked at it, that you have something rare, something true. Don't doubt that." "I'll try. That's all I ask." She went home, climbed the 4 flights to the apartment, found Maya and Jordan both home for once. She explained the situation, Rebecca's feedback, the timeline, Adrian's offer of the guest room. Maya's eyebrows went up. "He wants you to move in with him. Temporarily, for work. It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," Jordan said. "But I'm not mad about it. We could use the subletter income. And honestly, you've been stressed about money for so long, maybe taking the pressure off for a couple months would be good for you." "You're both okay with having a stranger here?" "We'll vet them," Maya said. "Make sure they're not serial killers. But yeah, I think you should do it. Not because of Adrian, though he seems decent for a billionaire, but because you deserve the chance to focus on your work without constantly juggling survival." "What if it changes things? Between Adrian and me?" "Then it changes things. But sitting here worrying about money isn't going to preserve some imaginary boundary. That boundary's already gone. He's already in your life. Might as well get a nice guest room out of it." Lena laughed despite herself. "You make it sound so transactional." "It is transactional. Everything's transactional. The only question is whether the transaction is fair, and from where I'm sitting, it seems pretty fair. He gets to feel like a patron of the arts. You get to make art without starving. Everybody wins." That night, Lena texted Adrian. "Okay, I'll do it, but we need ground rules." His response came quickly. "Name them." She thought carefully before typing. 1. This is temporary. 2 months maximum. 2. I pay for my own food and anything personal. 3. If either of us feels uncomfortable with the arrangement, we can end it immediately. No hard feelings. 4. My work stays separate from whatever this is between us. The gallery show succeeds or fails on its own merit. Agreed to all of it. "When do you want to move in? Is this weekend too soon? This weekend is perfect. I'll have the room ready." Lena stared at her phone, trying to process what she'd just agreed to. She was moving in with a man she'd known for less than a week. A man who'd inserted himself into her life so completely that she couldn't remember what it felt like before he was there. This was either the smartest decision she'd ever made or the stupidest. Probably both. The next 3 days were a blur of logistics. She posted the room on a subletter site, interviewed candidates, settled on a grad student named Priya who seemed responsible and quiet. She packed up her essentials, clothes, camera equipment, laptop, the things she couldn't live without. Everything else stayed in the apartment, waiting for her to come back. If she came back. Maya helped her pack, offering commentary and occasional warnings about not losing herself in someone else's life. "Just remember who you are," Maya said. "Remember what you want. Don't let his world erase yours." "I won't." "Promise me." "I promise." On Saturday morning, Adrian sent a car. Lena loaded her bags, hugged Maya and Jordan goodbye, and tried not to think about what she was doing. The car took her to an address in Tribeca, a converted warehouse building with industrial windows and the kind of understated elegance that screamed money without needing to announce it. Adrian met her in the lobby, helped carry her bags to the elevator. They rode to the top floor in silence. His apartment was, Lena didn't have words for it, open floor plan, exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. The kind of space you saw in architecture magazines, the kind of space that looked barely lived in. "Guest room's this way," Adrian said, leading her down a hallway. The room was bigger than her bedroom in Brooklyn. King bed, attached bathroom, desk by the window, empty closet waiting to be filled. Impersonal, but comfortable, like a very expensive hotel room. "This okay?" Adrian asked. "It's perfect." "Good. I'll let you settle in. I have work calls most of the day, so I'll be in my office. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen, mi casa, etc." He left, closing the door softly behind him. Lena sat on the bed, looked around the room, tried to understand what her life had become. A week ago, she'd walked into a restaurant expecting a networking dinner and walked out with this. Whatever this was. A billionaire benefactor, a gallery show, a transit series to complete, a temporary home in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Manhattan. It felt surreal. It felt wrong. It felt like something that would collapse the moment she stopped moving, but it also felt like possibility. She unpacked her bags, set up her laptop on the desk, laid out her camera equipment, made the space hers, or as hers as it could be while staying in someone else's home. Then she made a plan, shooting schedule for the next 6 weeks. Locations, times, specific shots she needed. She'd finish this series. She'd prove that Rebecca's faith wasn't misplaced, that Adrian's investment wasn't wasted, that she deserved to be here. That night, Adrian knocked on her door around 8. "I'm making dinner," he said. "Pasta, nothing fancy. Want some?" They ate in the kitchen at a marble island that probably cost more than Lena's student loan. The pasta was actually good. He'd clearly learned to cook somewhere along the way. "How was your first day?" Adrian asked. "Strange. Good strange, but strange. Give it a few days. It'll start to feel normal." "Will it?" "Because I'm sitting in a multi-million-dollar apartment eating homemade pasta with a man I met a week ago at the worst dinner party of my life. Normal feels like a distant memory." Adrian smiled. "Fair point. But strange doesn't have to be bad." "No, it doesn't." They cleaned up together, an easy domestic rhythm that felt both comfortable and terrifying in its intimacy. Then Adrian disappeared into his office, and Lena went back to her room, and the apartment settled into quiet. She lay in bed that night, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of a new space, watching the city lights reflect off the ceiling, thinking about everything that had changed and everything that was still changing. Somewhere in the apartment, she heard Adrian moving around, heard water running, heard a door close, heard the soft sounds of another person existing in the same space. It should have made her nervous, should have felt like an invasion of privacy, a loss of independence, a surrender of control. Instead, it felt like the opposite of alone, and that scared her more than anything else. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a routine. Lena shot every morning, came back to develop and review, worked on editing and sequencing in the afternoons. Adrian left early for the office, came home late, sometimes disappeared for entire days on business trips. They crossed paths in the kitchen, shared occasional meals, maintained the careful boundaries they'd established. It was working. The arrangement was working. And Lena's series was coming together. She had 12 new images she loved, 8 more to go. She was going to make it. One night, she came home from a late shoot at the airport to find Adrian in the kitchen, drinking scotch and looking at something on his laptop. "You're home late," she said. "So are you." "JFK had to wait for the right light." "Did you get it?" "I think so. Won't know until I develop it." He smiled, still trusting the process. "Always." She poured herself a glass of water, sat across from him at the island. He looked tired, really tired, the kind of tired that came from more than just long hours. "Rough day?" she asked. "Complicated day." The Tribeca deal fell through. 6 months of negotiations, and the seller backed out at the last minute. "I'm sorry." "It happens. Part of the business." He took a drink. "But it's frustrating when you do everything right and still lose." "Is that what this feels like, losing?" "It feels like wasted time, wasted effort, resources spent on something that produced nothing." Lena thought about her own work, all the shoots that produced nothing usable, All the images that almost worked but didn't. All the effort that went into creating one perfect frame. Sometimes the wasted effort teaches you something, she said. Sometimes you need the failures to recognize the successes. That's very philosophical. That's very practical. I shoot 300 frames to get 20 good images. The other 280 aren't wasted. They're the cost of finding the 20 that matter. Adrian looked at her. How do you stay optimistic about it? I don't. I just stay committed to it. Optimism is about believing it'll work out. Commitment is about doing the work regardless. That's a good distinction. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the city glittered with its endless energy. Millions of people living millions of lives, completely unaware that two people in a Tribeca apartment were having a conversation about failure and persistence and the cost of creating something that mattered. Lena, Adrian said finally, can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? Saying yes to all of this? The gallery show, the arrangement, me? She considered the question honestly. Sometimes. When I wake up in a guest room that's nicer than any place I've ever lived, when I think about how none of this would be happening without your intervention, when I worry that I'm not actually talented, just lucky enough to have attracted the right patron. She paused. But then I develop an image that I know is good, really good, undeniably good, and I think maybe I deserve this. Maybe talent and luck aren't opposites. Maybe they're supposed to work together. Do you believe that? I'm trying to. Adrian reached across the island, took her hand. Your work is extraordinary. With or without my help, you would have found your way. I just accelerated the timeline. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Because I've seen what happens when mediocre people get opportunities. They waste them. They produce work that's fine but forgettable. You're producing work that matters. That's not luck, that's talent. Lena squeezed his hand. Thank you. For what? For believing in me when I don't believe in myself. That's what this is, Adrian said quietly. Whatever we're calling it, that's what it is. They went to bed separately that night, maintaining their careful boundaries, but something had shifted. Some wall had come down. Lena lay in her expensive guest room and admitted to herself what she'd been avoiding for 2 weeks. She was falling for him, not because of the money or the opportunities or the access, but because of moments like tonight. Because he listened. Because he saw her. Because when she doubted herself, he offered certainty without demanding she change. It was terrifying. It was also undeniable, and she had no idea what to do about it. 3 weeks before the gallery show, Lena woke up at 4 a.m. with a realization that made her sit straight up in bed. She was 3 images short. After 5 weeks of shooting, processing, editing, and second-guessing every decision, she had 17 images that met Rebecca's standard. She needed 20, and she had no idea where to find the last 3. She got up, made coffee in Adrian's immaculate kitchen, spread her contact sheets across the dining table, studied every frame she'd shot, looking for something she'd missed. A moment she'd dismissed too quickly. An image that could be saved with better printing. Nothing. Adrian found her there at 6:30, still in her pajamas, surrounded by hundreds of tiny images. You're up early, he said, pouring his own coffee. I'm 3 images short. You'll find them. I have 3 weeks, Adrian. 3 weeks to shoot, develop, print, and frame 3 more images that are as good as the best work I've ever done. That's not optimism. That's statistical impossibility. He sat down across from her, studied the contact sheets. What are you missing? I don't know. That's the problem. Rebecca said I needed the full emotional spectrum: joy, anticipation, connection. I have melancholy covered. I have resignation, exhaustion, isolation. But the positive emotions, she gestured helplessly at the images. I can't seem to capture them authentically. They all feel forced. Maybe you're trying too hard. Trying too hard is literally my only skill. Adrian smiled. Maybe you need to stop shooting transit as a concept and start shooting it as an experience you're having, not documenting other people's journeys, documenting your own. Lena stared at him. That's not a terrible idea. Don't sound so surprised. She spent the next week trying to see transit differently, not as an observer, but as a participant. She rode trains to nowhere, sat in bus stations, reading books, wandered through airports, watching reunions happen around her. And slowly, carefully, she found her last 3 images. A father lifting his daughter off a train, her face pure joy. A couple holding hands on the subway, so focused on each other they'd missed their stop. A woman arriving at Penn Station, home after months away. Her mother running toward her with arms open. Connection. Anticipation. Joy. She had them. 2 weeks before the show, Lena delivered the final images to Rebecca. They met at the gallery, Rebecca going through each print with her usual careful attention, making notes, occasionally asking questions about composition or printing choices. When she finished, Rebecca looked up. "These are excellent," she said. "This is a complete series. Well done." Lena felt something crack open in her chest, relief and pride and terror all mixed together. "So we're really doing this," she said. "We're really doing this. Opening night is December 7th. I'll handle promotion, installation, all the logistics. You just need to show up and let people tell you how brilliant you are. I'm not good at accepting compliments. Learn, because you're going to get a lot of them." That night, Lena came home to find Adrian already there, which was unusual. He was normally at the office until at least 8. "Rebecca approved the series," she said, dropping her bag by the door. "I know. She called me." "Why did she call you?" "Because I'm listed as a sponsor of the show. She wanted to thank me for the introduction." Lena felt something cold settle in her stomach. "You're sponsoring the show." "Partially, it's standard practice. Galleries need funding for—" "How much?" Adrian hesitated. "Does it matter?" "How much, Adrian?" "20,000 for printing, framing, promotion, the opening reception. It's not $20,000. Lena sat down heavily on the couch. "You spent $20,000 on my show." "I invested $20,000 in your career. There's a difference." "No, there isn't. It's the same thing. You're buying my success." "I'm facilitating your success." "Your work is what makes the show matter. The money just ensures people see it." Lena put her head in her hands. "I can't do this." "Can't do what?" "This. Any of this. I can't accept your money for the show. I can't live in your guest room. I can't keep pretending this is normal." "It is normal. Galleries have sponsors, artists have patrons. This is how the art world works. Maybe for some people, but not for me." She looked up at him. "I need to know that I earned this, that my work is good enough on its own merit. And as long as you're writing checks, I'll never know that." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to be honest with me. Is Rebecca showing my work because it's good, or because you paid her $20,000? "Both." The honesty of it hit like a slap. "Both," Lena repeated. "Yes, both. Your work is extraordinary. Rebecca genuinely believes in it. But would she have given you a show this quickly, with this much promotion, if I hadn't helped fund it? Probably not. The art world moves slowly for unknowns. I accelerated the process." He leaned forward. "Does that make your work less valid?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I didn't earn it on my own terms. I earned it on yours." "And what are your terms? Work yourself to exhaustion for another 5 years, hoping someone eventually notices? Submit to hundreds of galleries and get rejected 99 times before someone says yes? Struggle and suffer and prove your worthiness through deprivation?" His voice was sharp now, frustrated. "That's not virtue, Lena. That's just suffering for the sake of suffering. It's called paying your dues. It's called wasting time you don't have." Adrian stood, paced to the windows. "You're 26 years old. You're incredibly talented. You have maybe 10 years, 15 if you're lucky, before the art world decides you're too old to be an emerging artist and not established enough to matter. Every year you spend struggling in obscurity is a year you lose. I'm giving you a shortcut." "Why is that so offensive to you?" "Because I don't know if I'm good enough to deserve it." The words came out louder than she intended, louder than she'd meant to say them. But there they were, raw and honest and undeniable. Adrian turned to look at her. "You think you don't deserve success?" "I think I don't deserve success that I didn't earn. And you think anything I help with doesn't count as earned." "Yes, that's absurd. That's honest." They stood in tense silence. Outside, the sun was setting over the Hudson, painting the river gold and red. beautiful and indifferent to their small human drama. I can't win with you, Adrian said finally. If I help, I'm buying your success. If I don't help, I'm withholding resources you need. There's no version of this where I'm not the problem. You're not the problem. I am, Lena's voice cracked. I'm the problem because I can't believe I'm good enough. Because every time something good happens, I assume it's a mistake or charity or luck. Because Marcus spent a year convincing me I was mediocre and insecure and not sophisticated enough, and part of me still believes him. Marcus was an idiot. Marcus was right about some things. I am insecure. I do doubt myself. I'm not sophisticated. I don't belong in galleries or museums or apartments like this. Adrian crossed the room, sat beside her on the couch. Lena, look at me. She did. You belong anywhere your work can be seen, he said. You belong in galleries because your photographs are extraordinary. You belong in museums because your vision matters. You belong in this apartment because I want you here, not because you're a project or a charity case or entertainment. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to care about something real. What if I disappoint you? What if you don't? What if the show fails? What if no one likes it? What if I prove Marcus right, that I was never good enough and everyone was just being nice? Then you'll learn from it, and you'll make better work, and you'll keep going. He took her hand. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are going to see your work and recognize what I recognized. Something true. Something that matters. Lena felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. I'm terrified. Good. Fear means it matters to you. That's what you said before. At the MoMA benefit. It's still true. She leaned against him, let herself be held, let herself stop fighting for a moment. His arms came around her, solid and certain, and she thought maybe this was okay. Maybe accepting help didn't make her weak. Maybe letting someone support her wasn't the same as being carried. I'm sorry, she said quietly, for freaking out, for making this harder than it needs to be. Don't apologize. Your feelings are valid. Your fears are valid. I just wish you could see yourself the way I see you. How do you see me? As someone who walked into a room designed to destroy her and almost made it out with her dignity intact. As someone who works harder than anyone I know. As someone whose talent is undeniable once you stop talking yourself out of believing in it. Lena pulled back to look at him. Why do you care so much? Really? I know you've said it before, but I still don't understand. You could invest in anyone, help anyone. Why me? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Because when I met you, I was so tired of performing, of being the version of myself that everyone expected. The ruthless businessman, the self-made billionaire, the guy who won by being smarter and more calculating than everyone else. That's who I am. But it's not all I am. He touched her face gently. When I'm with you, I don't have to perform. I can just exist. That's rare. That's worth protecting. So I'm your escape from reality. No. You're my reminder that reality can be more than performance. Lena kissed him. Not the quick kiss from before, not the tentative testing of boundaries. A real kiss. Deep and certain, and full of everything she'd been afraid to admit. He kissed her back like he'd been waiting for permission. When they broke apart, both breathless, Lena said, I'm still sleeping in the guest room. Adrian laughed. I wouldn't expect anything else. But that night, she didn't sleep in the guest room. She fell asleep on the couch, her head on his chest, his arms around her, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling while they talked about everything and nothing until the words ran out and only comfortable silence remained. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Final printing and framing, decisions about arrangement and flow, promotional materials, press releases, the endless logistics of turning 20 photographs into an exhibition. Rebecca handled most of it, but Lena was involved in every decision. She wanted to understand the process, wanted to know how galleries worked, wanted to be more than just the artist who showed up for the opening. Maya and Jordan came to visit one afternoon, ostensibly to see how Lena was doing, but really to check out Adrian's apartment and make sure she hadn't completely lost herself in his world. This place is insane, Jordan said, staring at the view, like genuinely insane. You could fit 3 of our apartments in this living room. 4, Lena corrected. Maya was quieter, studying Lena with concerned eyes. You look different. Different how? Happier, but also more anxious. Like you're waiting for everything to fall apart. That's accurate. They sat in the kitchen. Adrian had made himself scarce, understanding that Lena needed time with her friends, and Lena told them everything. The fight about the sponsorship, her fears about deserving success, the kiss, the slow shift from professional arrangement to something that felt dangerously close to love. "So you're together now," Maya said. It wasn't a question. "I don't know what we are." "You're sleeping on his couch and making out. You're together." "It's more complicated than that." "It's only complicated because you're making it complicated." Jordan grabbed a cookie from the jar on the counter. "He clearly cares about you. You clearly care about him. You're both adults. What's the problem?" "The problem is that our entire relationship is built on an imbalance of power. He has all the money, all the connections, all the ability to make or break my career. If this goes wrong, I lose everything." "And if it goes right?" Maya asked gently. Lena didn't have an answer for that. The night before the opening, Lena couldn't sleep. She got up at 3, made tea, sat in the living room watching the city that never actually slept despite its nickname. Adrian found her there an hour later. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified." "Want company?" "Please." He sat beside her and they watched the city in silence. Across the river, lights glittered in New Jersey. Below, the occasional taxi passed, searching for fares that didn't exist at this hour. "What if it's terrible?" Lena asked quietly. "What if I walk into that gallery tomorrow and realize my work isn't actually good? That everyone's been lying to me out of politeness?" "That won't happen." "You can't know that." "I can know that your work is good. Whether other people recognize it is out of your control. But the quality of the work itself, that's undeniable." "People deny undeniable things all the time." "Then they're idiots, and their opinion doesn't matter." Lena smiled despite her anxiety. "That's very binary thinking." "I built a company on binary thinking. It works." "Life isn't business." "No, it's messier. But the principle still applies. Some people will get it, some won't. The ones who get it are your people. The ones who don't aren't worth worrying about." "That's easier said than believed." "Most things are." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Adrian said, "I have something for you, an opening night gift." "You've already given me too much." "This isn't money, it's something else. Wait here." He disappeared into his office, came back with a small box wrapped in plain paper. Lena opened it carefully. Inside was a vintage Leica lens, the exact lens she'd been saving up for, the one that cost $3,000 she didn't have. "Adrian, I can't." "It's not a gift, it's a loan. You'll need it for your next series. When you're done with it, you can give it back or buy it from me or keep it forever. Your choice." "This is incredibly expensive." "It's a tool. Tools should be used." Lena held the lens carefully, feeling the weight of it. "Thank you." "You're welcome." "I mean it. For everything. For believing in me. For being patient with my insecurity and my doubt and my tendency to self-sabotage. For—" Her voice caught. "For seeing me." Adrian pulled her close. "You're not hard to see. You just don't give yourself permission to be visible. I'm trying to change that." "I know. That's what tomorrow is about. Letting yourself be seen." They stayed up until dawn, talking about the show, about her fears, about what came next. When the sun rose over the city, painting everything gold, Lena felt something shift. Maybe she was ready for this. Maybe she deserved this. Maybe it was time to stop fighting her own success. The gallery opening was scheduled for 7. Lena arrived at 5, met Rebecca to go over final details, made small adjustments to the arrangement of images. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked like someone else's work, someone professional and established and confident. It took her a moment to accept that it was hers. People started arriving at 6:30. Gallery owners, curators, collectors, journalists. The art world crowd mixed with Adrian's business associates and Lena's friends from Brooklyn. Maya and Jordan showed up wearing their nicest clothes, proud and nervous on her behalf. Thomas Brennan arrived at 7 exactly, spent 20 minutes studying each image, then found Lena in the crowd. "This is exceptional work," he said. "I'm confirming you for the group show in February. I'll be in touch next week with details." Lena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. By 8, the gallery was packed. People Lena didn't know were discussing her work, debating its merits, placing red dots next to images they wanted to purchase. The transit series that had consumed her life for 5 weeks was now public, now subject to judgment, now out of her control. Catherine arrived at 8:30, dressed impeccably, accompanied by James and Diane from that first terrible dinner. Lena saw them enter, felt her stomach drop. Adrian appeared at her side immediately. "You don't have to talk to them." "Yes, I do." She crossed the gallery, met Catherine's eyes directly. "Lena," Catherine said, her smile sharp. "What a lovely show. Very earnest. Thank you. I was surprised to see you've come so far so quickly." Adrian must be very pleased with his investment. Rebecca Morris is pleased with the work. That's what matters. Of course. Catherine's eyes raked over the images on the wall. It's quite good for someone so inexperienced. I'm sure with time and proper training, you could develop a more sophisticated aesthetic. Diane laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Catherine, don't be cruel. The work is perfectly adequate for what it is. Which is? Lena asked. Documentary, journalistic, the kind of work that makes people feel something without actually challenging them. Safe art for people who want to feel cultured without being uncomfortable. Lena felt the familiar burn of shame, the urge to apologize, to shrink, to accept their assessment as truth. Then she looked at her work on the walls, at the woman crying on the train platform, at the couple holding hands, lost in each other, at the father lifting his daughter, pure joy captured in black and white. These weren't safe. These were true. You're right, Lena said. This work isn't challenging in the way you mean. It's not trying to be clever or provocative or sophisticated. It's trying to be honest. And if that makes you uncomfortable, if honesty feels too simple for your refined palate, then maybe you're not the audience I'm trying to reach. Catherine's smile froze. Excuse me? You heard me. This work isn't for people who want art to perform sophistication. It's for people who want art to tell the truth. You're welcome to stay and look, but I'm not interested in your approval. She turned and walked away, heart pounding, hands shaking, but somehow standing straighter than she had in months. Behind her, she heard Adrian's voice, cold and final. Catherine, I think it's time for you to leave. Lena didn't turn around to watch them go, just kept walking toward Maya and Jordan, who'd witnessed the whole exchange with expressions of fierce pride. That was amazing, Jordan said. That was terrifying. Same thing, Maya said, pulling her into a hug. I'm so proud of you. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and champagne and strangers telling Lena how much her work moved them. By the time the gallery closed at 10, 12 of the 20 images had sold. Red dots everywhere. Success, tangible and undeniable. Rebecca found her near the end of the night. Congratulations. This was an exceptional opening. I'm already getting inquiries about your next series. I haven't even thought about my next series. Start thinking. You're not an emerging artist anymore. You're an artist, full stop. After everyone left, after the gallery emptied and the lights came down, Lena stood alone in the middle of her first exhibition. Her work surrounded her, illuminated by gallery lights, no longer hers. Now it belonged to the people who'd bought it, to the people who'd seen it, to the conversation it had become. Adrian waited by the door, giving her space to have this moment alone. You ready? He called softly. Yeah, I'm ready. They walked out into the December cold, the gallery lights dimming behind them. The city was alive with people going to dinner, going home, going about their lives. None of them knew that something monumental had just happened, that a woman who'd been told she didn't belong had just claimed her space anyway. How do you feel? Adrian asked. Lena thought about it. Exhausted, relieved, terrified about what comes next, but also, she paused, searching for the word. Proud. I'm proud of what I made. You should be. They walked in silence for a while, no destination in mind. Just walking through Chelsea, past other galleries, past restaurants and boutiques, and the endless commercial hum of Manhattan. I need to tell you something, Lena said finally. Okay. I'm in love with you. Adrian stopped walking. What? I'm in love with you. I have been for weeks. Maybe since that first night, I don't know. But I need you to know. Because I can't keep pretending this is casual or professional or whatever we've been calling it. You've changed my life. You've changed how I see myself. And I'm terrified that you're going to wake up one day and realize I'm just another struggling artist you helped, that the novelty will wear off and I'll be left with a broken heart and a gallery show I can't separate from you." She was rambling now, words tumbling out faster than she could organize them. "But I'd rather tell you how I feel and risk losing you than keep pretending I'm okay with boundaries and guest rooms and this careful distance we've been maintaining. So there it is. I love you, and I don't know what to do about it." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. That real smile, the one that made him look younger and less guarded and almost boyish. "I love you too," he said simply. "You do?" "Of course I do. I've been in love with you since you called out Catherine at that dinner, since you refused to be dismissed or diminished, since you showed me what it looks like to be genuinely, unapologetically yourself." He pulled her close. "Did you think I invite everyone to live in my guest room? That I spend my evenings developing film and eating bad Chinese food and watching someone work because it's interesting? I love you, Lena. I just didn't think you were ready to hear it. I'm ready now." "Good, because I'm done pretending this is temporary." He kissed her there on the street in Chelsea in the December cold. Kissed her like he'd been waiting for permission, like he'd been holding back, like now that the walls were down, he could finally be honest. When they broke apart, Lena was breathless. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Whatever we want. We figure it out as we go. No more guest rooms, no more boundaries. Just us, whatever that means." "That's terrifying." "That's honest." They went home, not to the guest room, but to Adrian's room, to his bed, to each other. And for the first time since walking into that terrible dinner party, Lena felt like she belonged exactly where she was. The next few months were not smooth. Lena moved her things from the guest room to Adrian's room, had long conversations with Maya about maintaining her independence and her friendships and her sense of self. She worked on her next series, portraits this time, people in their homes, the private faces they showed only to themselves. The MoMA Group show in February was successful. Another gallery in LA expressed interest in her work. Her career was building, slowly, carefully, on merit, but also on the connections Adrian provided. And she was learning to accept both as valid. They fought sometimes, about money, about boundaries, about what it meant to be a patron versus a partner, about whether accepting his help diminished her achievements or simply accelerated them. They didn't always agree, but they learned to disagree honestly, without either of them shrinking to accommodate the other. Maya warned her, more than once, about losing herself in someone else's life, about mistaking security for love, or confusing gratitude with affection. Lena listened, considered the warning seriously, and decided that what she felt was real. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, but real. In March, Marcus sent an email, a long, rambling apology that mentioned his compliance issues at work, his realization that he'd been unfair to her, his hope that they could have coffee and talk about closure. Lena deleted it without responding. She didn't need his closure, didn't need his apology or his validation or his belated acknowledgement that she'd been right to leave. That chapter was over, and she had no interest in revisiting it. In April, Adrian's mother invited Lena to their standing Monday lunch. It was awkward and wonderful. Maria Voss was exactly as stubborn and sharp as Adrian had described, and she spent most of lunch interrogating Lena about her work, her background, her intentions toward her son. "He's a good boy," Maria said in accented English. "But he works too hard, doesn't know how to rest. You make him rest?" "I try." "Good. He needs someone who's not impressed by all the money. Someone who sees him." "I see him," Maria nodded approvingly. "Then you can stay." By summer, Lena had enough gallery sales to pay off a significant chunk of her student loans. She kept shooting, kept building her body of work, kept learning how to exist in the art world without apologizing for being there. She and Adrian bought a loft in Brooklyn, somewhere between his world and hers, with space for her darkroom and his office and the life they were building together. She insisted on contributing to the down payment, even though her contribution was a fraction of his. It mattered to her. He understood. They hosted a dinner party, not the kind from that first terrible night, but something smaller, more intimate. Maya and Jordan, Thomas Brennan, Rebecca Morris, Adrian's mother, a few of his colleagues who'd become friends. Lena cooked, which was a disaster, and they ended up ordering Thai food from the place in Queens. It was chaotic and imperfect and exactly right. One evening in late August, they were sitting on their balcony, watching the sunset paint Brooklyn gold and red. Lena was editing images on her laptop. Adrian was reading the newspaper, old-fashioned and committed to print. "I have a question," Adrian said. "Shoot." "Do you still think about that first dinner, about walking into that restaurant and realizing you'd been set up?" Lena thought about it, about the humiliation, the anger, the moment she'd almost left, about Catherine's cruel smile and Victoria Chen's fake invitation, and the way she'd felt small and unwelcome and completely out of place. "Sometimes," she said, "but not the way I used to." "What changed?" "I used to think of it as the worst thing that happened to me. Now I think of it as the night my life split open, the night I stopped accepting being made small." She looked at him. "The night I met you. Do you regret it? Any of it?" "Which part?" "All of it. The complications, the power imbalance, the way we started. Do you wish it had been different?" Lena considered the question honestly. "Sometimes I wish I'd met you without needing your help, that I'd been successful on my own first, so I could know for certain that I deserved everything that came after. But then I remember, I might have spent years waiting for success that never came. I might have given up. I might never have finished the transit series or had the gallery show or believed I was good enough." She closed her laptop, turned to face him fully. "So, no, I don't regret it. I just had to learn that accepting help doesn't mean I didn't earn it, that success can be both deserved and assisted, that those things aren't mutually exclusive." "And now you believe that?" "Most days. Some days I still doubt everything, but I'm working on it." Adrian smiled. "Good, because I have news." "What news?" "The Guggenheim wants to acquire 3 images from your transit series for their permanent collection." Lena stared at him. "The Guggenheim. The Guggenheim. They want my work. They want your work." She couldn't speak, couldn't process. The Guggenheim, one of the most prestigious museums in the world, her photographs in their permanent collection, alongside artists she'd studied in school, artists whose careers she'd only dreamed of approaching. "How did this happen?" she managed finally. "Thomas Brennan recommended you. They'd been following your work since the MoMA Group show. They made the decision themselves. I had nothing to do with it." "You're sure?" "I'm sure. This one's all you." Lena felt tears threatening. Happy tears, grateful tears, the kind of tears that came from years of doubt finally cracking open into belief. "I did it," she whispered. "I actually did it. You did it." She kissed him, tasting salt and joy and the strange sweet relief of finally believing she deserved to be here. "Thank you," she said when they broke apart. "For what?" "I didn't do anything." "For believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. For being patient with my doubt. For standing up at that dinner and choosing me when you could have chosen silence." "I didn't choose you," Adrian said. "I recognized you. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Choosing implies you were an option among many. Recognition means I saw something that was already there, something that would have mattered eventually, with or without me. I just made sure people were paying attention." Lena leaned against him, watching the sunset fade to twilight. Below, Brooklyn hummed with life. Families having dinner, kids playing in the street, the endless ordinary magic of people existing together. She'd spent so long feeling like she didn't belong anywhere. Too poor for the art world, too ambitious for Brooklyn, too uncertain for success. But sitting here, in a home she'd helped choose, with work that museums wanted to acquire, with a man who loved her for who she was, and not who he needed her to be. She finally understood. She didn't have to belong to the world. She just had to belong to herself. And for the first time in her life, she did. 6 months later, Lena stood in the Guggenheim, looking at her own work on the wall. The Transit series, 3 images selected from the 20, hung in a gallery alongside photographs by artists whose names she'd once only whispered with reverence. Adrian stood beside her, quiet and proud. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Surreal. Terrifying. Like someone's going to realize there's been a mistake and ask me to leave. That feeling ever go away? I'll let you know." They stood there for a long time, watching other visitors move through the gallery, watching people stop and look at her work, watching strangers have reactions to images she'd created from moments she'd witnessed. A young woman stood in front of one of Lena's photographs for several minutes, studying it, really looking. When she finally moved on, there were tears on her face. "Someone's crying at your work," Adrian said softly. "Is that good or bad?" "It's real, which is what you wanted." Lena thought about that first dinner, about walking into a room she wasn't supposed to survive, about Catherine's cruel smile and Victoria's fake invitation and Marcus's casual dismissal of everything she was. She thought about being the joke, and realized she'd never been the joke at all. She'd been the answer to a question she hadn't known how to ask. What happens when you stop trying to belong and start being yourself? What happens when you let yourself be seen, completely and unapologetically? This happened. Museums and galleries and strangers crying at your work. A partner who saw you and chose you anyway. A life built not on performance but on truth. Success that felt earned because it was built on your own vision, your own voice, your own refusal to be made small. She'd walked into that restaurant thinking she needed to prove she belonged. She'd walked out knowing she didn't need anyone's permission. And everything that came after, the gallery shows, the museum acquisitions, the career that was finally, impossibly, real, was just confirmation of something she'd always been but hadn't let herself believe. She was enough. She'd always been enough. She just hadn't known it yet. Adrian took her hand as they walked out of the museum into the New York afternoon, into the life they were building together. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, but real and true and theirs. "Where to now?" he asked. Lena smiled. "Wherever we want. We'll figure it out as we go." And they did.